He's all, I saw this a couple weeks ago.
With your required 3-color Toyota.
You gotta have that.
You gotta have that.
Absolutely, you have to have that. Is it offensive if you see somebody with a Ford or something driving with those stripes, those same yellow, orange, and red?
Not personally. I mean, if you have a Ford going, I mean, anything, it just reminds me of the 80s, right?
Yeah.
It's 3 colors, it's stripes.
It's
cars of the
nostalgic.
80s were, I mean, you can get in it as far as deep as you want to go with the Toyota side of things. But, I mean, to me, there's 2 sides of it. For some reason, I mean, so many cars came through the port from Japan for Toyota.
Yeah.
And then the port had their own stickers they put on it to make it look cooler.
Okay.
So most of those stickers were never even installed by Toyota.
Oh.
So there's that one side of things. I mean, I have an FJ60 like that. And it has, I mean, someone that does pinstriping went to town on it. And it has, 4 different thicknesses of the same color stripes through the whole length of the truck. And then below that is another 4 of a different color.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like silver stripes and blue stripes on a silver truck. And it follows the whole car. And it's like, well, someone really went to town on this thing. And it's
Interesting.
they probably did, who knows, 5 of them, 10 of them, 20 of them at the port. And,
Right.
then the dealership could do an upcharge.
Yeah.
So there's that side of things. And then there's the whole, Ivan Stewart racing side of things. I mean,
yes.
I don't know who decided that this is the color scheme that this race truck is going to have.
Right.
But I don't think they had any intention that, 30 years from then.
It would have a cult following.
Yeah, someone's going to be doing it. Now, my huge pet peeve is it's not 3 stripes.
Oh.
It is a white truck with 2 stripes, and then the back of the truck is red.
Yes.
There's no red stripe.
Oh, like Iron Man.
So when you see a yellow, an orange, and a red stripe, and again, it's just my pet peeve. That's not done properly. It's supposed to be a white truck that's half white and half red, and there's a yellow and orange stripe that separate the 2.
Right.
It's a very different thing.
Right.
Absolutely. No, I got you. But I love it. Yeah, that it's like a religion almost, that you have certain sacraments and you cannot. These must absolutely be followed, and then you can go.
You can't
beyond
vary
that.
from those, right? Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Where do you draw the line that this is right? And then you also say, hey, things are supposed to morph and grow and turn into something else. And there's many things that are really cool that started as one thing and turned into something way better.
Yeah.
Now, if you're saying this is the Ivan Stewart way, well then. I don't even know, and again, I have no idea. I've met Ivan Stewart before, but we're not buddies. He doesn't call me and ask me questions. I don't go to his house for dinner.
Right. Hey, Iron Man, how you doing? Yeah.
It's the Ivan Stewart colors, but somewhere someone decided this is what the race truck should look like, and
here
it became the Ivan Stewart colors.
And it's still recognizable.
Exactly.
What, 40 years later now? 45 years later almost? I mean, that was early 80s, so...
Exactly.
I mean, that's iconic.
I mean, he is the guy.
Yeah.
That you talk about Toyota history and Toyota off-road racing. I mean, his name has to be one for one with that.
There's a reason why he's called Iron Man.
There is a reason. But he's still a guy that he did such a good job. But for any other vehicle manufacturer, I don't think anyone has that following.
No.
I mean, even with Toyota, they've had other people that race for Toyota.
But you don't know them.
He's still the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, not to pick on anybody, but when B.J. Baldwin was sponsored by Toyota, the attitude of him, the way he races, everything that comes along with that, I never saw it as a good match.
And he came from Chevy to Toyota, didn't he?
Right.
So he's a brand changer, and you're supposed to stay loyal to one brand your whole career.
You are?
I thought
Who
so.
made that rule? I thought you're a race car driver. You want to go fast, and if you can go fast and collect a paycheck, I mean, you won. That means you are a successful race car driver if you can collect the paycheck and go fast.
Yeah, man. And I think maybe Von Gittin Jr., he's a Ford Mustang guy.
Right.
And he's always been Ford. I could say that.
Right.
And maybe Dale Earnhardt would be a Chevrolet guy.
Who's responsible to set you down at the beginning of your career and say, look, you haven't done anything yet. But if you ever sign with a vehicle manufacturer, you better pick the right one because you're there forever.
Yeah.
There's never another choice to change.
Oh, and if if you were stuck at after birth, you were like, this baby will be driving smart cars. You're like, and you will never change. You're a serf. And no one ever go above your station.
Maybe I'm just stuck in my mentality of once you start with one thing, you finish with that thing, and you don't change. Unless there's something impending. something that really is catastrophic, you don't change for no reason.
I feel like there's something more deep-seated with you personally that this is coming
it's
from.
It's probably more personal than anything, yes.
Abandonment issues.
Right.
Yelling this on his front
All
porch.
right, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Too sensitive for you, huh?
No. As I shake my head, yes.
Greg, why we have you here is to talk about.
Is this an intervention?
Is this an intervention?
Yeah.
Ben doesn't even know about it?
No, I got that cryptic text from Sugar earlier. I didn't know this is what it meant. Now I know.
Now I know.
Yeah. So Ben, we're at Slee Off-Road. And what's your position here at Slee?
Well, I like to think of myself as a problem solver, but my business card says that I'm the sales manager. Or sorry, I'm the general manager.
General manager. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't even know because you have every job, right?
Lots of hats.
Lots of hats.
Have you, or did you start by building cars? Were you a mechanic? Were you just in sales? How did you?
I guess it depends on how far you want to go back, because it goes back. But
I guess what's related to this?
And I did a little bit of research, though.
Uh-oh.
So there was an article.
Those rap sheets, they're not all true.
No, they're not. I only glanced over those, but I saw an article where you and Christo were competing in some competition, and they did a little background on you where it said you came from Farmington, New Mexico.
That's where I went to college, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
You spent a lot of time there with your family growing up, though?
Grew up in Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.
Still New Mexico, but grew up in Santa Fe and went to college in Farmington.
The interesting part of the article said that you spent a lot of time camping in the family's 74 Datsun station wagon.
So that is half true.
Okay.
I get called out by my wife all the time of, well, what you just said is not 100% true. I said, I was telling a story. It's more important that my story is entertaining.
Yes.
And it needs to be 90% factual, but if you add a little couple pieces in there, it needs to make it entertaining.
Right.
That particular show was about camping. It was a show called Overlanding, so it was about camping.
In a Datsun.
So I got to throw that in there. But yes, I mean, our first car as I was a kid, I remember growing up we had a Datsun station wagon. It was not nice. It was not reliable. Now, I don't know how nice cars were of the 70s. Everyone has a car in the 70s. You think you had a nice car.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I still find it interesting that in the position I am today and how I run my life and what I enjoy and where we started, we kind of started earlier talking about if you're a Chevy guy, you're a Chevy guy. You're born and your parents say you are X amount because our family has this.
Right. Yes.
And sometimes it's because your family all has them. Sometimes because you're familiar with them.
Yes.
I can't discredit if you live in, middle America and you live in a, 6 stop sign town and there's a Chevy dealer there. You're going to be a Chevy guy because why would you buy a car that's not supported by that?
More than likely, yeah.
So we grew up with one car. We were not a car family by any means.
I see.
That was literally a mode of transportation that, in the winter, you're trying to get up the hill. I mean, you're chanting to hope the car doesn't break down and to get up the hill. I mean, that was a common thing that happened in my, in my household.
Flintstoning it, air quotes, yeah.
My single mom and my 3 brothers. I mean, it was just get you where you want to go. So when it came time to buy a car, at that time, my mom had graduated from a Datsun station wagon into a Subaru station wagon.
Nice.
Why would you not, right?
Because Sugar hates them. That's why.
I'm not a fan of Subaru, but
I don't blame you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And
I like to think if I dislike a car, it's because I have first-hand experience of why I dislike that, not because I don't like the color, not because Prius, for whatever it's worth in my industry, it's an off-road industry. It gets a bad rap. Prius is always used as an example of a terrible car that's going to get driven over by your diesel truck or by your off-road truck. Prius arguably has a lot of brilliant things with it when it comes to engineering and such.
It is a good car.
Whereas there is a lot of negative things about Subarus that I have learned firsthand. Sure. But, when my first car, I would consider myself at that point, we had a Subaru family because once I bought one, then we had a family of 2.
Yes.
We did have a mechanic that was a Subaru only mechanic. Okay. So when I didn't know, what I was, because I wasn't a car person, not a car family.
Okay.
It was by a Subaru because I have that tiny little bit of support of, I was familiar with it. My mom had one. And we have the mechanic that could help the family.
Right.
So then I magically became a Subaru guy.
Right. I appreciate the confession.
By default.
Yeah, you're like, no. It wasn't by choice. It was by environment.
It was by default,
right. There's a friend of mine I had in high school that was in a punk band. I mean, he was the coolest guy because he was in a band. Yeah. And of course, he had one of the Subaru 2-door wagons that had the third headlight that popped up in the middle of the grill.
Yeah, sure. But
that was super cool. So his family was part of the family that owned the Subaru repair shop, and his cousin had another Subaru. He drove a Subaru Brat.
Oh, yeah.
Carbureted. You can drive down the road, turn the car off, pump the accelerator 15 times, flood the thing out, turn it back on, and backfire through the neighborhood. Awesome. I mean, what's more fun than that?
Not
in addition
much.
to the seats facing rearwards, I mean,
Yeah.
coolest car ever. See,
Yeah.
Brett in high school.
He's a fan of brats, at least.
Yeah.
I'll give an exception for a brat. And there's some kid on Instagram that has a Subaru Baja, and he painted it up Mountain Dew blue, and he's called it the Baja Blast. Is his name? I'm like, okay, I would buy that for that joke.
Yes.
But nothing else. It's so funny because we had an episode where I just started going off on Subarus.
A good 10 minutes worth.
and apologizing because I have a lot of friends who are into them and cousins and stuff. But I also have a blown out Subaru engine in my garage from a cousin's car, and then
Only one?
Yeah, I know. and then also having Dad traded his vet when he married my mom and got a Subaru, and it blew head gaskets all the time, and so it was always kind of that warning: never,
Don't get Subarus.
Don't get Subarus, stuff like that. So yeah, ingrained in blood for sure. But yeah, I mean, this is Slee just known for Toyotas and off-road, right? I mean,
correct. So Slee, officially Slee is the last name of the owner of Slee, Christo Slee.
Yeah.
Slee is a Dutch last name.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. It has a lot to do with four-wheel drive. Slee means sled.
Really?
Yeah, four-wheel drive, sled. I mean, makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
If you don't think about it, makes total sense. But yes, I mean, Slee Off-Road started.
Sure.
Slee Off-Road started by Christo Slee, and he had bought a Land Cruiser. He's originally from South Africa, came to the U.S., got established, and always loved Land Cruisers. He actually had a geophysical background. He's a geophysicist.
Nice.
So instead of going off-road because off-roading was fun, it was a means to get your work done.
Right.
For a geophysicist.
Yeah, for sure.
Loved Land Cruiser, bought a Land Cruiser, and bought a late model at that time, a 96 Land Cruiser. And it was a late model, and there was no support for it.
Okay.
So his idea and goal is, hey, I want to build some stuff for my own car, and then went to some meets, and people said, hey, where'd you get that?
Right.
Well, I made it. Well, can I buy it? I want one. And he would take parts off his car, sell them, make new parts, and then kind of turn it into a business. So the kind of the direction of the business was supporting, the latest model Land Cruisers or the latest model Toyota and Lexus four-wheel drive or body-on-frame vehicles. And that's kind of been the goal always, is looking forward. Toyota's been around a long time. There's been Land Cruisers from, FJ40, FJ45, FJ55, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And there's always been companies that kind of specialize in restorations and updating old ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was never the goal for Slee Off-Road.
Okay.
However, I mean, I personally have been here almost 22 years.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
Now stuff that we do still goes backwards to arguably older cars that includes restorations and repairs, even though the original focus was building parts to support the newest generation.
It's almost come full circle then.
It has, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you guys known for your parts that you sell, or do you think you're known more for building cars?
Can I get the in-dash winch control, please?
So that's an outdated part. Oh. Yep. So
Darn.
you don't have to be disappointed though, because that supported a winch that was also outdated. So the winch that once upon a time was made for doesn't exist.
Oh. It's not a universal controller.
Right. I saw you guys showed up in a old Ford pickup.
Yes.
Old Ford pickup has a separate solenoid for the starter.
It does.
Well, the old Warren winches, the way they controlled the in and out was with 4 solenoid packs that looked almost identical to a Ford starter solenoid.
6-post or 4-post? Did they have 4-post on the solenoid or
It'll
6?
be 2. I thought they were 2. I don't. Well,
okay.
your high load posts and your low load posts. So, yeah. 2 high load posts and 2 low load posts.
Okay.
But that's how they controlled those winches. So you needed a complicated switch to control that because you're doing a bunch of stuff at the same time to run them in and out.
Yeah.
Well, fast forward to today, we now have really nice, fancy, small package contactors.
Yes.
All you have to do is add 12 volts to one terminal.
Yes.
So a fancy switch is no longer needed. You can use any switch to just add 12 volts to go in, 12 volts to go out, and that's all in the past where it belongs.
Yeah.
It looked really cool, though.
It looked really cool. But yes, in the past.
Yeah. And I have the transmission on that 71 Ford has a PTO takeoff too.
Okay.
So I can. So let's talk about that now.
So we could put a PTO winch on it?
Yeah, we could.
Let's do that.
Probably super reliable. It also comes with all the other things of you got to probably wait for it and it's slow, and where do you package that, and the cool things that sometimes the things that it can be is more important than what it is, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
Sometimes the idea is more important than the final product.
Yeah. You have to appreciate that.
Like that thing will never be a 75-mile-an-hour vehicle, but, but it could be.
It could be, but never will.
But it will.
Yeah.
I'll leave it that way.
So then, from the Datsun, it said in that article also that you went to the '84 pickup, and those pickups from in what my mind is the '83, I believe '84, when they, or maybe it's the '85 to '90, I think it is, when they're square.
So in the Toyota pickup line on the 4-wheel drive from the update from the 83, so 79 to 83 arguably was their Gen 1 pickups.
Yeah.
Granted, there was a split year between round headlights and square headlights.
Yes,
and, you know,
exactly.
You don't be caught being a round headlight guy or a square headlight guy. I mean, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You get in trouble.
Yes.
But then 84, exactly.
Someone
You got the daggers that come out of the front of your shoes, right?
a bunch
Watch
of guys
out.
from the alley dressed in Marty McFly.
Now you're jumping forward even more to the Marty McFly.
That's a whole nother game.
Yeah, but
That's a
seriously,
different
84 to, and the pickup side of things would be 84 to 88.
Yeah.
Granted, the diehard guys are 84, 85 because that's the live axle. 86 went to independent, and then everything gets even more confusing.
Yes.
But jump from the Subaru. I mean, to be fair, I jumped from the Subaru wagon, which again, familiar family Subaru wagon. That's what it was.
Right.
I was a kid. Turns out Subaru wagon. I didn't even get the right one. I got the front wheel drive one, not the 4-wheel drive one. So I did it all wrong.
Oh no!
It was more of
can't think of anything
a
worse.
financial decision. I can assure you, as your first car buying
Yes.
yourself, it's a financial decision.
3 headlights and only 2-wheel drive. That sucks. Oh, gosh.
It's a little less common. Are you familiar with what a Subaru XT Turbo was?
Yes.
Do you remember
Yeah.
that? The flying
The
wedge?
wedge
Yes.
one that Giargo design, or Bertoni maybe design. Yeah, that's a
So
wild
it went from the Subaru wagon of, did you know Subaru makes a car with a turbo that's a sports car? Well, I'm a punk kid. I like sports cars. I want a sports car. So actually it was from one of your previous shows was a gentleman who was a pastor.
Yeah.
I found a gentleman who was a pastor that had a Subaru XT Turbo.
Yeah. Nice.
And he wanted a wagon.
Nice.
So we horse traded.
Nice.
It was painful. I'll be honest with you. It made me question, not to take away from the show you guys had with your friend that's the pastor.
Right.
But my experience with the pastor was I no longer do car business with pastors.
Wow.
I went into that thinking that, this is a man of Jesus, the man of the church. I don't have to have my hairs up the back of my neck at all.
right.
And let's go into this. And turns out
It should
I
work out
found the
well.
opposite. Yeah. And that has done well for me for my whole life, making decisions based on that one experience.
That's interesting.
Yep. So that was interesting to me. But XT4 Turbo was a very, very cool, unique car.
Yeah.
Not good,
No.
but very unique. I mean, now in today's, you buy a Tesla, the door handle's flush, right? You walk out of the car, the door handle pops up.
Yeah.
The XT had the flush door handles that you push a little window in, and your hand goes under.
Supposedly.
It's so cool.
Yep. When it works, it's great.
And flip-up headlights too,
Yep.
right? Yeah. I mean, and that one was all-wheel drive for
That
you.
one was all-wheel drive. Had
Still-
the digital dash, which I mean today we have LCD screens for dash.
yeah.
I mean that was the entry one. You had one digital screen that when you accelerate was the tach. Opposing it was a digital screen that gave you boost pressure, which was arbitrary, right? It was a line. It was either more or less. It could have been making 1 pound of boost for all I know, but one was more than 0, so the gauge went up. In the middle had the picture of the back of the car. That car went up and down with pneumatic suspension. You hit the button and the car in the picture went up. And when you put in 4-wheel drive, the whole rear axle would light up in the picture of the dash 4-wheel drive.
Nice.
And for what it was kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure.
If it wasn't a Subaru and a pile of junk, it would have been really, really cool.
But still having a turbo XT at that time, I mean, that's a real amazing car.
It was a neat car. It was not an SVX because right when after that car
SVX
came out, the
was the
SVX
next-
came out, and that was the quote-unquote supercar of Subaru, which you can remove the super part, but
Yeah.
the superist car that they had.
Yeah, but I mean, and
with
that
the half windows, right?
So it
the
was
supercars.
very cool too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Italian design kind of thing, and it was really wild. That car, I remember seeing those in the showroom as a kid too. Going down to Burt Subaru and stuff, checking that out because
It was a big deal.
well, that was my hobby was taking my dad, dragging him to car dealerships to see the new things that came out.
Yep.
You know that you read in Car and Driver. It's like, okay, take me down there. I had broken my arm, falling off a swing set when I was a kid, like I was like 12, and when I was recovering from the hospital, out of the hospital, they go, "What do you want? We can get you ice cream, we can get you comic books. What do you want?" And I go, I want to see the new Honda Del Sol. And they took me to a Ralph shop to go to the dealership to go check it out, which was hilarious because I thought it was going to be the cool one with the roof that slid down into the but that didn't come in America, and they broke. It might as well have broken my arm again.
Yeah,
it hurt so bad.
Your heart and your arm at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
It turns out this is a gutted out Civic, if there's such a thing.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
Why can't we have those cool Japanese and European cars like that? Why is the U.S. market so different?
Maybe they thought those Americans can never fix this thing when it breaks. This complicated roof.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They'll never fix it right.
I mean, yeah, and then Toyota from then on. I mean, have you?
No. So
just a good
I was so disappointed with my Subaru experience of thinking I had a sports car and found out I did not have one.
Right.
I was at my, at the time, girlfriend's house, and her dad's friend came over with a 280ZX.
Oh,
and
there you go.
He had the T-tops off. He had the wife beater on with the gold chain.
Shoot, Dad.
And I was like, oh, wow, that's a real sports car.
Right?
And I was talking to him, and he was kind of a car guy. He was not mechanical at all, but he liked to turn cars. I would call it turn them more than flip them.
Yep.
I don't think he ever made any money on them, so he didn't flip them.
Right. Sure.
But he would turn them around, and this was a car that he bought, and then they painted the car in their backyard.
Nice.
And makeshift paint booth. It was more makeshift than it was paint booth. But I was talking to him. He's like, I have about $2,500 in this car. I'm like, wait. You have a real sports car?
Right.
And you have $2,500 in that? I think that's how much money I have in my Subaru. Oh. So I should be getting into a Z car.
Yeah.
Instead of that, granted, mind you, this was a 280ZX.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't know at that time that is
different.
Terrible. I had the luxury of where we lived. I was into actually bicycles when I started because we had money, and I raced mountain bikes, and I took myself through junior high and high school being a bike mechanic.
Oh, nice.
So I
Very cool.
got mechanical in that side of things, even though I didn't know anything about cars.
Good, you answered our question without answer.
There you go. Now, across my childhood home was next to a park, and catty corner to the park, there was a gentleman who owned an auto machine shop.
Okay.
Did engines and stuff, and I actually built bicycles for him.
Nice.
So we had a neat relationship on that side of things. We rode bikes. I built bikes for him. Well, as I got into cars, I learned that he used to road race SCCA Z cars, but proper Z cars.
Nice.
So I went from seeing the Z cars might be affordable, and then talking to someone who actually raced Z cars and said, "What did you build? Tell me all about it. I want to know everything you did. I'm just going to do that." And he said, "Well, you don't want a 280ZX. That's actually not a real sports car." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, then what do I want? You want a 240Z?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I started looking up, and I was a kid. I couldn't tell the difference looking at the ads on the Thrifty Nickel and the Auto Trader that had little printed black and white ads in it. I couldn't tell the difference between a 280Z, a 260Z, and a 240Z.
Right.
And I could tell you that the 280Zs were less money, and they sure looked like the same car.
They sure did.
So guess what I bought?
A 280Z.
280Z. Little did I know that it was fuel injected, which at that time was not a good thing.
Right.
That was a bad thing.
Yes.
No support, dumb thing, no
My dad
O2
had
sensor, no feedback. I mean, it was terrible.
Yes.
But I had a Z car, which was a real sports car.
Absolutely.
And then every day I'd go to him. So what'd you do? I want to build a race car like you. What'd you do? Okay, well I bought this bushing kit, and I bought Tokiko shocks, and I bought these springs, and same thing. Well, I looked at Tokiko shocks that he had, which is the Tokiko Luminas, which were adjustable.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I was a kid in high school.
Okay.
Well, Tokiko also makes another shock that's not adjustable. So guess what I bought? The cheap ones.
Yeah.
And so I went through the steps, but I missed the boat almost everywhere.
Right.
I got it half right. So I ended up, road racing and doing some SCCA racing and doing that, but I just did it. You gotta learn somewhere. I did it on the cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it myself.
Trial and error.
Now in school, because I didn't know anything about cars, I took every opportunity that I had. We were lucky enough that our high school was set up more like a college. So it was a full campus with multiple buildings in it.
Oh.
And at one point in time, half the campus was high school, and half the campus was a traditional vocational school, more like a college.
Nice.
Right.
And somewhere before I went there, they combined them all as a high school with vocational classes.
Oh.
So I got super lucky in that regard.
So you could take woodshop mechanics, stuff like that.
Yep, they had one building that was mainly the trades. So it had automotive class, and then a big gate in the building, and then it had machine shop and the big gate in welding and a big gate in woodworking.
Nice.
And then just before I started, they had built a new metal building across the street that was auto body. So I tried to just immerse myself in learning all that stuff. And if I have to be in high school, and I try to remember this because I am my father of two, and one of them just graduated high school, one of them is in high school, and I'm trying to push them and say, you need to take advantage of all these things.
Yes.
I have to remind myself that I did not like being in high school.
And I didn't take
When
advantage.
I think back, I think about everything that I learned and the experiences I had, and there was a lot of good things in there.
Yeah.
Learning comes from things being difficult, not from things being easy.
Amen.
So I have to remind myself
Amen.
that it was not an easy process.
No.
But now I can sit here and spout all these great things I did and how it was a stepping stone to where I am today.
Right.
So that I have a hard time keeping my mind in check when it comes to that. But, I took Auto 1 because it was the first thing you can take.
Yeah.
Well, in high school, in order to be a coach for any of the teams, you have to be a teacher and a coach.
Okay.
So the football coach was the Auto 1 teacher.
Yeah.
He was a football coach first and second and third and fourth and fifth, and an auto teacher 99th. The first semester of auto class was go to Walmart or Kmart and buy a plastic model of a car that you like, and we painted in class. That's what we learned about cars.
Oh.
And here I am with my new quote-unquote sports car, trying to work on it, and I bought my suspension, and I bought all the Delrin bushings for the rear suspension, and all the the solid link mounts, because I'm building me a race car. Little do I know that it's my only car, and a race car on the street can be painful.
Yeah.
Amen.
And I'm trying to force him to let me work on my car. I should have never done that. I mean, I remember we're putting my brand new Tokiko struts in with my lowering springs, and I can't figure out how to get the strut out because that's a traditional McPherson strut with a lower arm and not on the top, not a upper and lower control arm.
Yeah.
And he is showing me how to take the biggest pry bar in the shop and pry the shock out against the fender. So we're putting huge dents in the fender of my car trying to get this out. And I'm like, I don't know any better. This guy knows. He's my shop teacher.
Oh, yeah.
You're supposed to know.
So it went terribly.
Oh, man. That's
That went
horrible.
not well, so I didn't learn much in that particular class. But I was in welding at the same time, so I was making two bumpers, because I bought the wrong car. So I had the 280Z with the giant bumpers on them, with the accordions on the side.
For sure.
And I'm learning how to make, quote unquote, two bumpers. Now that I'm in the off-road industry, it's funny because these are two bumpers. I was putting two bumpers on my car because I was in welding shop. We had tube. It was that or a piece of beam. I mean, what do you have to work with?
Tubes.
And at the same time, I'm trying to learn how to do auto body work. I think I'm still a punk kid, right? I have no patience. I'm trying to figure out how to do an awesome job and paint my car. And I bought the big fenders because if you're a road race car, you got to have the big fenders to tuck the tires.
Yeah.
I don't know that you have to cut the inner fenders out and you have to mold with fiberglass these new fenders in your car. This is all new to me, and I did a terrible job. I would have been better off riveting them on. I would have ended up with a better project than a car that all cracked to pieces.
Right.
After you painted it all. So doing that in auto body and trying to paint my car. And luckily for me, one of the stepping stones that I still see in my history is for Auto 2. There was a teacher that was known as being just a huge hard ass and no one liked him. Well, he quit before I went into Auto 2, which would have been my senior year.
Okay.
And there was a gentleman that was a huge car enthusiast. He had owned multiple businesses. I think he had a truck tire road service business for a while. So he's a hands-on guy.
Right.
He came into this at 110 miles an hour. He got the school and Snap-on together to buy little mini tool kits because we didn't have any tools in school. Little mini tool kits that you partnered up and you got assigned your tools when you're in class. You actually have tools to work on that are good quality.
Nice.
He actually put things together to teach you how to work on your cars and real projects.
Good.
He really motivated. I don't know if you guys were in school. You had VICA.
Yeah.
Where you had competition.
I was treasurer.
There you go. We never had that going into that, even though it existed.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know about it as students. So he pushed to get into there. And I was so motivated from having a terrible experience to working with someone that actually cared and knew something and helped you along the way. That was a huge stepping stone for me. The other part, which I still find crazy, he had a Suburban, 3-door Suburban with a giant motor in it. You got to have the big tack. That's a hose clamp to your steering column, right? You got to have that. If you have an aftermarket motor, you got to have
a big
that.
dummy light on it too.
I don't know if they had dummy lights then. It was before that. He was a crew chief of a sprint car team. And we lived in Santa Fe, and they raced in Albuquerque, so it's roughly about an hour drive.
Right.
And he would invite kids to get in his personal Suburban after school, drive an hour to the racetrack, go into the pits in the middle of the round-around course, and get an experience. And the experience we usually got was guys running into each other, getting out of their sprint cars, and beating the tar out of each other because they're so mad that a guy wrecked them. That was the kind of experience. But nowadays, to think that a teacher can ask a student to get in their personal car and go somewhere It's
unheard of.
asinine.
It's unheard of.
But it was such an awesome experience
Yeah.
that I can't believe how this has all turned around on us.
Yes.
Man.
Yes. That's a whole other podcast, though.
Exactly.
We could do another podcast
that's
about
this
how.
one. I mean,
Show me where the man
well, this
touched
is
you.
It is a,
Show me on the doll.
but it is a cry to freedom or whatever, because you're off road. You can't be regulated. You're off in the fields. Nobody. So if that's your attraction and that's in your heart, then it's of course you're going to be attracted to adventure and flying out in the middle of nothing. And figuring it out. So I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. And huge part of upbringing too, because I don't know. I think it's the last big hope of automotive freedom is off-road.
Yes.
Yes.
So twofold. I mean, complete the answer to your question. One, the things that brought me into off-road was, when you're fabricating stuff, when you're making stuff, I found that it was easier to fabricate stuff for an off-road car than it was a road race car.
Yes.
If at that time you have to buy everything, there's not a lot. You can't make a shock. You can't make a spring. Arguably, you could make exhaust. I didn't have the ability to do that at that time, but you can make exhaust. But there was so much stuff that you could buy.
Yes.
And then as I kind of grew out of the road racing thing and learned that, you can make shock. If you're a basic fabricator with basic tools, there's so much more you can do on an off-road vehicle than on a car, and that kind of swayed me. Yes. For my fabrication motivation. And the other part of that kind of got me here was, I'm a high school student. I'm graduating school. I still don't know what I'm doing. Everyone asks me, what are you going to do with your life? Where are you going to college? All these things. I'm like, I honestly don't know. I all I know is I don't want to be here, and I'm happy to be done with this. And there was an orientation in my automotive class to where the guy came from the college and he did the presentation with the board and the pie graphs and said, we have a school that's a Chevrolet school that we can teach you how to be a mechanic. And I was like, I'm a Japanese car guy. I'm a road racer. I'm into Nissans. I mean, Nissan all the way, not Datsun Nissan. I want to do this. And I did my research. I thought it was so cool. And I looked, and Nissan had a school in California, and that was it. And I was like, well, I'm not moving to California. And he did his whole spiel and said, we have a school. We can teach you how to work on Chevrolets and do all this stuff. And I wasn't paying attention at all. And at the very end of his spiel through the class, he said, oh, by the way, we have a program for Toyotas here as well. And I was like, what? Wait, can you back up the whole thing and start over so I can listen this time? That's awesome. Toyota's not a Nissan, but, it's kind of close. And that was, the difference of going from living in Santa Fe and commuting to school in Farmington, which is a 3-hour drive, versus, moving to California or somewhere, which I was not prepared to do.
Right.
And it was really by chance that there was a school that was close that specialized in Toyota. Little did I know that, fast forward to today. Yeah. I'm just plenty of people that are into Nissans, but Nissan in the off-road world is nothing.
Nothing.
The amount of stories you hear that Nissan's going to go bankrupt in the United States is common.
Yes.
I didn't know that at that time. And, Toyota is the largest automaker in the entire world. That was not part of the plan.
No.
I had no idea. And just got very lucky that worked out that way.
And now they're being produced here in America.
Exactly.
So they have 2 or 3 plants that they're assembling them, aren't they?
I don't know the quantity, but you have to be careful on U.S. versus North America, because they produce in Canada, U.S. and Mexico. Yes. For U.S.
Yes.
That kind of is what swayed me into Toyota, which, it's those little things that, I like to look at, hey, what opportunities do I have that could possibly happen, instead of, some guys are, half cup, glass half full, or half empty.
So that made you switch brands, too.
That made me switch brands, yeah. Going from the Nissan thing to the Toyota thing. At that time, friends had Toyota pickup trucks, right? You were just saying how cool they were at that time. It was so far out of my price point that, I saw them from afar, but it was never tangible. Okay. Even when I was in school, it wasn't quite tangible. When I graduated, I have lots of cars. I've had lots of cars. I really wish I had a way to go back and document everything that I've had, because it would be a very, very, very long list. In high school was the first time when I started with only having one car and got interested in more. And then all of a sudden I had 2, and I'm sure my mom didn't appreciate having one parked on the street and one parked in the driveway and one, taken apart in the driveway all the time. But went from 2 cars, and all of a sudden I went to 3 cars. As I graduated, someone had donated an international travel that was not running. And I think I bought that car for $100. Yes. And got the thing running, and it had that 345 V8, which is, it's not a powerhouse by any means, but
it's so cool to get it going.
So a 2-door Travelall. At that time it was the poor man's Suburban. There was no demand for it.
Right. Yeah.
today they're awesome. You know,
Yes.
it was kind of that puke green color with the wood grain down the sides. It had dual tanks with the automatic in it. It was such a cool car. It was two-wheel drive. However, again, being a punk kid, I went off-road a couple times and got it so buried that we had to sleep in it and spend the night. And I swore at that point in time that four-wheel drive is way better than two-wheel drive for a truck. So sold that thing and still could not afford Toyotas.
Right.
So I found me a sweet Chevy Love.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's your cross-section.
Exactly. I mean, from far away, if you squint, it almost looks like a Toyota.
I mean, it is an Isuzu, but it's a Chevy Love, yes.
This one had a 3.8 liter motor in it from a Monza.
Oh.
It had a solid axle swap with a Toyota axle in the front that was leaf sprung.
Holy cow.
It had a Dame 30 in the front, a Toyota axle in the rear to get the 6-lug all to work out.
Right.
It had some, and I still don't even know, I think the transmission came out of the Monza. It had a external shift gate for a manual. You might know more about this than me, but
wow.
And I had a shifter through the floor. That was a floor shift with the 4-speed, but it went to linkage on the side, and I still don't know how that all worked, but it was all external linkage.
Yeah. It sounds like they're using the same case for the autos and the manuals
Right.
or something.
It could have been a Muncie 4-speed or a top loader 4-speed or something like that.
Yeah, no, it would be in a side load if there was such a thing. And again, I still going back, I've tried to stay away from that as much as I could.
Right.
And then I had a divorced 300 in it to make it all work because the motor and transmission was out of a 2-wheel drive vehicle, so they put the divorced transfer case in it.
So that's definitely a Muncie 21 or 22, probably not a rock crusher, but
nothing that cool.
Probably I mean,
we'll edit the correct
Warner.
answers in later.
you could comment the correct answer.
Yeah. So that was in the budget, and it turns out, I mean, as you would expect, somebody who put that kind of modifications in the car, it didn't do it good, and it was a terrible experience. But again, I learned a ton. I mean, I learned how to rebuild a 300 transfer case because it puked its guts everywhere. When you try to learn how to do a brake stand, it spits the U-joints out of it because guess what? Nothing was done right. There's no heater in the truck. I live in New Mexico. It gets cold.
It does.
I learned very basic 12-volt wiring that, nobody can figure out how this thing works, and you ask for help, and guys look at it like you have, this is a botched mess. I don't know how to help you. And it was, I need to have heat.
Yeah.
I need to have bare minimum my windshield defrosted.
Yes.
Whether I'm cold or not isn't important, but I need to be able to see out the windshield. I learned very basics of, can't I just buy this switch from AutoZone and give it power to the motor and give it ground and just turn the fan motor on and make this thing have heat? And
why can't I do that? Yeah.
Yeah, why can't I do that? And I did it, and I thought, wow, I'm the smartest man on earth. I made the heat come out of the car, and I don't even know about cars.
Yeah, like Tom Hanks in Castaway. I've made fire. The necessity is the mother of invention, and I love it when you. No mechanic school taught me more than being broken down on the side of the road in the mud and the rain.
Yeah,
The School of Hard Knocks. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
yeah.
The school of I want this and I don't know how to get it, but I'm going to get it somehow.
Exactly. And that will motivate you in all things of life, right?
You'll teach yourself the wrong way every time and then get to the right way eventually.
And I think that's such an important lesson for everybody in the world is nobody knows the answer.
Right.
If you have a hurdle, whatever it happens to be, the first thing to accept is that not everybody ever knew how to do everything.
Right.
And just because someone thinks they know doesn't mean they know. So it is your job at that point in time to figure out the answer by any means necessary.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And if you fail 5 times before you get there, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's all learning.
Yeah.
It's all learning.
There's nothing wrong.
Right.
So as soon as you accept the fact that someone else is supposed to know, but it's your responsibility today to figure it out,
Yes.
it makes things so much easier.
And there's a different pressure on you that way.
Correct.
Yeah, pressure to...
It's okay. I'm not supposed to know.
Yeah.
I don't have to know.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And amen. And also the flip side, I think now the disease is super confidence.
Yes.
And I will, if you ask somebody advice, they will give you an absolute answer, whether they actually know it or not. You know?
And or
Well, it's
believe it.
twofold, I think. I think people asking the question want the absolute answer. They expect it.
Yeah.
The person giving it, again, to their detriment, is
Yes.
giving an absolute answer.
Yes.
In the business that I'm in now, I am constantly educating of all types.
Yes.
And sometimes people are very frustrated when your answer to them is trying to educate them, letting them know that there is no absolute.
Okay.
And they get so frustrated, they keep asking the same question over and over and over, looking for that absolute, and they don't get it. And, my personality is I want to educate you so you know going into this,
Yes.
what your options were. and choosing the right option for yourself or your project or what have you.
And why these are your options.
Exactly.
And how you got
sometimes
to this
I
point.
go home just depleted. I've exhausted every bit of my energy, and I didn't get anywhere. Somebody wanted an absolute. I didn't give an absolute, and I think we all lost.
Yeah.
But I'm still not willing to give in.
Yes. I'll come back tomorrow with an absolute for you. Somehow, some way.
Exactly.
At least one that you think is an absolute. You think it's an absolute.
You think. Yeah, but there is no such thing.
Man.
So when I first called you about this podcast and I said, "Do you know the term mechanical sympathy?" I could almost feel the energy coming through the phone, like, "Yes, I know it. I use it. Blah blah blah." Could you kind of go through that again with me? Like, I ask you, what does mechanical sympathy mean to you?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. When you mentioned to me that is what you were working on, that was the name of the podcast, and the term
Yes.
was one for one. I use that term daily, not only in educating, but also in, but just my personal decisions.
As at home, not at work, also.
Everywhere.
Okay.
I was joking with you the other day when we briefly talked about just making this meeting. Mechanical sympathy to me can be as simple as flushing the toilet.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's the one I wanted to
my
do.
wife will make fun of me because I totally am an idiot. I mean, I'm a dork. I'm an idiot. I try to find something in things that no one else sees.
I geek out on the wrong thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
totally
that's
wrong.
called you're an engineer. Yeah.
When you walk up to a toilet, you notice that someone didn't flush it all the way. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is there's multiple ways to flush a toilet. You have a lever on a toilet, and we all use them multiple times a day, and we all have them in our homes. Mm-hmm. If you take the lever and you just push it down real quick and take your finger off, it will not flush all the way.
Right.
If you take the lever and you push it down and you hold it until the bowl is empty, the toilet has fully flushed and had every opportunity to work as it was designed. Nobody teaches that. If you take the lever and you push it down and you kind of flick your finger off the side and let it bounce back, that's when the chain falls off of the stopper and people are fixing the toilet and no one knows. I don't know. It just broke. Now, is that important? People will probably listen to this and tell me, I've been flushing toilets my whole life. I don't need to know this. Why is this even important? And the truth is it's not.
It's
You
not.
can use a toilet without knowing this.
That makes me so happy.
There are so many different ways to flush the same toilet and have it actually function better and last longer.
Yes.
That's
That's the mechanical sympathy. of it.
Exactly. That's one side of the mechanical sympathy. I experience it on the complete other flip side. I've done quite a bit of off-road racing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the extreme side of things. That you are trying to maintain and protect all of your equipment. Well, it's getting hammered to death, and you're trying to make that balance of, I want to win this race. In order to win this race, I have to go faster than everybody else. Well, arguably, there are ways to go as fast as other people and destroy your equipment slightly less.
Yes.
Maybe that's not enough. So you have to make that decision internally. Am I willing to go over that and know that my equipment, hopefully this has to last to 1 mile past the finish line and all break apart.
Yeah.
But if it does 1 mile less than the finish line and break apart, then I lost and I was an idiot.
Yeah. Right.
And I have always been racing with a budget. To some people, they will destroy that car off-roading and then point to the guy who built the car, the engineer, the designer, and say, you built a pork product, it fell apart. And that engineer has the ability, or that builder has the ability to say, either one, you're racing my car wrong.
Yeah.
Two, give me more money, and I will find a way to design it more durable for what you just broke, and then you can find the next thing to break, which is those are both okay answers.
Yes.
If it's my budget, it is, I feel guilty when I break the car and I think, if I would have backed off 5%,
right.
I might have lasted the whole race for that one part.
Yeah.
So is it my fault because I didn't back off because I was overdriving it? Or I didn't leave enough extra, right? You're off-road racing. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're driving at 100%, there's no room for that extra 5% to come out of nowhere.
At all.
The hole, the bump, the gotcha.
Yeah.
If you're driving 90%, you got that extra 10% of fluctuation that something can come up. So I have a hard time with that with mechanical sympathy of I'm trying to protect my equipment and I'm also trying to be competitive.
Win the race.
Win the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Ayrton Senna is a son of a bitch.
Right.
And, because he says
You can do both?
he says if there's a gap, then you don't go for it, then you're no longer a racing driver or whatever. It's like, yeah, but you smash things up and you ruin, you take out 2 cars or whatever.
Right.
Else. And that was what Jackie Stewart was talking about when we got the title of this thing, was that he was complaining about Ayrton Senna in this interview that I saw, that he destroys cars and he has no mechanical sympathy for it. Yeah, exactly. But no regard. It's perfectly a perfect explanation of what you just said.
Racing mountain bikes when I was a kid. You have the ogre that has the calves, the size of an actual
tree trunk.
Yeah. That he's the guy breaking off bottom brackets and breaking chains and breaking crank arms. And you're like, how? Yeah. How is this happening? However, you are never finishing a race. So all I have to do is not do that.
Right.
And I can beat that guy at least. So
no matter how much power he has.
Yes. Yeah. He will out sprint you every time. And all you have to do is sit back and drive right by him.
Wait for him to break.
Yeah, that's it. And there will always be that guy in racing. There's the other side of things. I mean, you're talking about, professionals out there. Sure. Certain professionals, I think the expectation of whoever is putting them in that position is go out in flames. As long as you go out in flames every time, you will win in our regards because everyone knows who you are, they recognize our product, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the expectation, right?
Yeah, if that's the expectation, yes.
And once in a while, that guy will win because everything will stay together. And then it's a thing of beauty because not only did he go out in flames, he won going out in flames. And it was great. He destroyed all the equipment.
It was glorious.
He was bouncing through the air, and it all worked out that day.
Look at the trophy he got.
Right?
Look at the trophy. We're going to get so
when in
much
doubt,
more
throttle out every single time. It doesn't always work.
No.
But sometimes it does. And when it does, it is amazing.
Yes. I've broken more shit than gotten out.
Yeah.
I've broken more than gotten out.
So I am jealous at the same time, even though I am so sympathetic to mechanical things.
Yes.
I still am jealous sometimes of the guys who either one, don't know, or two, don't care when it does work out well.
Yeah.
Well, and I wonder if like real true racers, they don't seem to be car guys. It's what you can. It seems weird, but that they can be at the top of their game in Formula One and off-road. Maybe not so much off-road racing because I think all the off-road racing guys kind of they have to debate it's life or death more with especially a Baja guy that they're way more in tune to the vehicle itself, and so maybe they have more of a drive to the vehicle itself. I mean, I'm sure the youngsters have amazing cars at home too, but but like other trained racing drivers don't necessarily have anything cool at home.
Right. Exactly. Does that make you a better driver though? If someone gives you a car, going back to Days of Thunder, I gave you the perfect car with specially matched tires. Right. If you don't know anything about cars and you're told I gave you the perfect car.
Right.
And there is no mechanical sympathy.
No.
There may be, there are some benefits in that. All I'm here to do is drive the car and walk away when it stops
hard and fast as I can.
Yeah.
As hard and fast as I can.
There is
I'm
some
supposed
value
to win
in that.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think if you have the unlimited budget, the unlimited crew, the unlimited chassis in the trailer and stuff like that, you can go to every race like that and just absolutely thrash everything to get to that first spot position win, right? But if you don't have the unlimited trailer, you don't have the unlimited budget, the crew and all that, you have to have some sort of patience, sympathy to make that car last for your season and stuff like that.
I would agree.
So I think if the where you're coming from is a lot to do with your mechanical sympathy. Days of Thunder, here, I gave you the perfect car.
Yep.
Just go out and drive it. That's what he's going to do. The guy who built the perfect car and then has to get in it and drive it, he's going to drive that car 100% different than the guy that was just given
every
the car.
vibration, everything that feels off. You're thinking back, did I tighten the drive shaft bolts?
What was that?
I think I did, but did I? And if you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about driving. So, So every little thing you feel, wow, this might get bad. But if I stop real quick and check it and it doesn't come apart, well, then I'm going to finish this race because, then you stopped to check it and now you lost the race because you were going too slow.
Yeah, you weren't on pace.
I mean, there's definitely a happy medium in there.
Yeah.
Certain jobs that you just can't get done if you spend too much time. You know, I mean, we all know here at this table that washers are directional, right? We all agree. There's two sides of a washer.
In my mind, there is.
There's two sides of a washer.
Nobody's ever taught me that. Nobody's ever said it to me. There's two sides to a washer, but in my mind, there's
two
a side
sides, right?
that goes
when
down.
When you pick the washers up, you look at it, and you purposely put it on a bolt or a nut a certain way.
I do.
Now, there's not a right and wrong way. There's a right and wrong way for an application. There's not a right and wrong way for a washer.
No.
How much time do you spend doing that on a project that may not even be important? You're assembling a gate in the back of your house. Does it really matter when you're crushing that washer into a piece of wood
and it's
with a lag bolt?
Yeah.
Does it matter?
No.
It doesn't matter. But you know there's a difference, and you pick it up, and that may impede you from actually completing a project because you're worried about what side the washer goes on.
Yes.
So maybe this is an OCD podcast now. but no,
But there's a mechanical difference, and there's a reason for it, right?
Yes, and I have gone through that where, especially at Pinky's, when building things, where you make sure that all the bolts are lined up.
Yes.
Where you're where washers are that way too, but also because there's a shiny side sometimes too. And it's serious. I know that you're a little joking about it, but I have undone several bolts and then gone, because you step back and go,
Yes.
oh no, this isn't. That one's dull. This one's shiny.
It's aesthetic thing, yeah.
Yeah, or you can feel the edge of the washer. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Well, yeah, if you pick up someone else's project and half the washers are on the bolt side and half the washers are on the nut side and it's the same component, you have to fix it.
Yeah. Did we just become best friends? Okay.
I mean, part of building a hot rod or part of building anything that you're proud of is that there is proof in it that you took the time and you were somewhat OCD, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you obviously didn't appreciate it then, and you're not building hot rods then.
Yeah,
you were fixing cars,
and how do you
even
teach
that, you're
that
not doing a good job.
disease to a new guy? You know, how do you teach that disease and then wanting
Because that's what it is a disease.
Yeah, and also and frustrating your wife and everything like that with how it has to be done this way or whatever, and then I can sleep at night. You know, it's like,
hopefully you're not racing a car and thinking about it driving down a racetrack trying to compete, thinking, did I put that washer on the right direction? Because I would consider that to be too far if there is a too far. So, but there's too much. I do draw the line somewhere.
There is times that I've walked up on somebody else's work and go, they didn't care about how they put this together, because look at how all those washers and how everything's just different. They just threw it together. They didn't care how they threw it together.
Yep. And it may work just fine.
Yeah, but I don't trust it because they didn't care how they put it together.
Well, it makes you question if they didn't pay attention to that.
Right.
What else did they not pay attention to?
Right. So if you can walk up and see that they cared how they assembled it, all things are lined up, all things are matching and stuff. They actually paid attention to how it was assembled. I'm going to have more confidence in that build than the guy that just, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing.
That is why the Van Halen story of them wanting green M&Ms, or was it Black Sabbath? I don't know.
I don't know the story.
They wanted the M&Ms on their rider, like we want a jar of green only M&Ms in their, in their thing. It wasn't because they're all nuts.
I thought they're just all assholes.
Yeah, it's
That's
not.
why.
It's not. No, it's this principle that you're talking about is because they said if they got that right, that meant they read the whole rider about how to rig the lights and how to get the stage so that things aren't crashing down on them and they're not getting backfeed and everything else from their instruments and people aren't, electrocuted on stage in the rainstorm when they're playing.
Right.
that part was the first assurance.
Yes.
Because they said if there's not a jar of green M&Ms in the green room, then they go, we have to read the rider and we have to check everything. You know, set it out, make sure the roadies go.
There's a lot to that.
Right. So it's.
My brother was trying to get a job at a grocery store when we were kids.
Yeah.
And he had the application to fill out, and there's a couple questions just to kind of vet the applicants. And one of the questions on there is, why is a manhole cover round? And the reality is the reason why that question was on there is not truly to get it right, but it is to judge the aptitude of the person of what the answer is. But it turns out the reason why a manhole cover's round,
I would know. I don't know the answer. My only guess. Okay, let's test it then. I guess how boring answer. Greg, you got to say this too, but I would say that so that you can't put it in wrong.
I mean, that's the end. Not necessarily put it in wrong, but you can't drop it in the hole. There's no edges, right? If you take a square and you put it on an end, you can drop it in.
Yeah, exactly.
The manhole cover's round, and there's a lip on the seat. In theory, there's no way you can drop it in and drop it into the hole.
Nice.
But again, the answer was not important. But it was interesting to see it for a grocery store application. That question on there, he was, obviously up in arms. I don't know. Why is this question on here? It has nothing to do with me getting the job here. And like, well, fast forward to where I am today, and I'm like, well, yeah, some questions to kind of judge people's aptitude is important.
We're not allowed to do those questions anymore either.
I don't think we are we?
We're not.
There's a lot of stuff we're not allowed to do.
We're just, can you work?
Are you allowed to ask that?
I think
I don't
so.
think you're even allowed to ask, can you physically work? Do you have any physical limitations? Are you even allowed to ask that anymore?
I think depends on the job. Can you lift 50 pounds is one I've been answering a lot.
Okay.
So. But I'm also applying for labor jobs, so
I guess that's fair. Yeah,
you should be able to answer those questions.
Maybe,
but there's a lot of them. You can't call the former employer and ask them about anything. All they can say is, yes, he worked here.
Yes. So I've been on the opposite side of the table, and the same thing. I have to be cautious. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right?
How impossible is it to hire guys, competent guys now?
I don't know. How difficult is it?
He's asking me because I applied, and
okay.
It's very difficult to hire a competent person these days, if you ask me.
Yeah,
I found
it difficult for a multitude of reasons. I mean, some days, it just feels like you don't have enough applicants to go from. Some days it feels like the requests from the applicants are a little, we have a shop here, and I thought, I mean, Sugar, you mentioned that it was a nice shop. I mean, it's well lit. It looks great. I mean, I feel like we do a good job to create a nice working environment, as well as a nice place for customers to come in as well.
Absolutely.
I feel like that has value to an employee. Maybe I'm crazy, but the kinds of requests that I have sometimes are just over the top.
Yes.
I feel like if someone's comparing one job to another job, and we're still working on cars. You have to be willing to put your head down and work.
Yes.
You have to be able to put the hours in. You have to respect when the shift starts and when the shift ends.
Yes.
You have to respect the job that you're working on. You have to respect the people you're working around. I mean, there's so many of these things that I think just gets missed just as someone who is willing to work. And I think that it's coming around a little bit, but still working on cars in a lot of ways is looked down on as, that's a labor job.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is everybody I know drives cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
That car is important to get them where they're going, to pick up their kids, to get to work. It's an extremely important job. It's not that much different. I mean, you have to do more training as a doctor, and I get it. Yeah. You do a job wrong as a doctor, and you leave your tools inside of me. That is definitely more important. Not trying to compare being a doctor to being a mechanic.
Doctors don't know a damn thing, man.
When your car, they have the luxury of not doing that, right?
Yeah.
Humans never change.
They're practicing. Doctors are always practicing. A guy comes in with his car and wants it fixed. He expects you to be a damn expert, and you better do it right the first time.
Right.
And if you don't, it's a big deal.
Well, his argument is the human doesn't change. You don't get a different model next year. You're dealing with a different Lexus next year.
Yes.
You're dealing with a different Land Cruiser next year.
Whole new systems, everything else changes, and things get outlawed and updated. So it's like, there's a big deal, and
all the doctor,
but that's a different tangent.
All the doctor has is the same body with new techniques to fix it, new medicines to fix it,
new drugs to put in
things to fix that same thing that's been around for a millennia.
But it's like, but you got to make it safe, and you got to put yourself in the driver's seat and say, like, would I let my mom drive this home?
Right.
And like, would it be safe enough? And like, you have to. Have that argument sometimes. I imagine you probably do have some customers who say, "Well, just slap it together and let me go."
Right.
And you go, "You have no brakes. You will not. You will die."
Then you get the legality side of things. As a professional, I have to educate you that you should not drive your car home.
Yeah.
You've declined the work that we did. Yeah. I have to tell you that my recommendation is to have your vehicle towed away from here, and I can tell you that makes tempers a little extreme.
It does.
Because it's tied into their vehicle, which is their way to get around, their mode of transportation. It's tied into their financial situation, which is sensitive to all of us.
Yes.
So even though you're not a doctor, those are all very, very emotional things.
And sometimes it ties into their just pride and self-worth too, because if that's my lifeline, if you will,
it is.
That's how I get from work to home to grocery store to sustain myself. That is my lifeline. And you're telling me I can't drive it home from here?
Right.
After I just asked for an estimate? That's all I asked for was an estimate. Exactly. Now you're telling me I shouldn't drive. What the?
I've been involved in similar discussions that get one level deeper to where it's someone's daughter's car, someone's son's car. Oh. Now your ability to be a proper parent comes into question that the car that I bought for my daughter, you can't tell me that car is unsafe or that I bought the wrong car or that it needs more work than the car's the cost of repairs are more than the car's worth, because then I was a bad parent is what I just heard you tell me.
Yeah.
And now I'm very emotional
and
about
I don't
what
know you. How dare you say that to me? How dare you?
There is so many emotions that come with that. I mean, it comes up often. I'll be talking to a customer about all their options. They bought a car. Is this car worth fixing? Should I buy a different car? What's that car going to be like with their fixing? For this amount of budget, what do I buy? Do I buy a car with high miles? Do I buy a car that's newer? What do I do? And it really does turn into a like talking to your psychiatrist, and it's about your car. But it's very emotional. No way around it.
You have to be very, you almost have to be like the state patrol guy who can diffuse the situation and get to the truth of what is actually needed and still have the right scenario come out, where nobody's happy, but you can try and get things to a happy medium and not have everybody go to jail.
Somewhere in there, you have to fix cars too.
I mean, you the things you have to diffuse as a salesperson and or as a repairman is insane, because some people are just.
Some people, there is no right answer. It's impossible. Everyone wins when there is no physical contact that happens.
Right. But some people are just so emotionally charged, you feel like they're going to come after you, and they almost feel like you've attacked them personally when you're just saying, I don't think you should drive this on the road for the person that you're going to be behind and in front of, for the person that's in the vehicle with you. And if it's for your daughter, I'm not saying you're a bad parent, but you just this car was not a good decision. And,
Right.
And sometimes people just don't know how to handle that
No.
information.
Yeah,
So
it's too personal.
Yeah, and you have to do it. You have to, unless you're a coward, and let them go. But like, who's your customer here? Who do you think comes through the door for Slee Off-Road?
That is a great question. I mean, we obviously have a pretty big array, being that we work on all Toyota body on frame, Toyota Lexus body on frame SUV, off-road vehicles or four-wheel drive vehicles.
Okay, not a lot of Highlanders here? Or no?
No, we would not work on a Highlander here. Unibody vehicle. That's a different shop.
No, dude.
But it is. I mean, we can have a young kid or an older gentleman that has an early Tacoma, much like yours is, Greg.
Yeah.
That comes in and needs a different kind of work.
Right.
And then we'll have a gentleman, on the Land Cruiser side of things, it's very common that's a gentleman that is towards the end of his working career. Okay. A Land Cruiser happened to be a good thing. If you own your own business and you're buying a car and you get the luxury of buying a car and riding it off through your business, it has to be a certain weight. So that's considered a commercial vehicle.
Okay.
Well, Land Cruiser and LX570 have always been kind of tapered in there to where that falls into that guideline.
Yeah.
So if you don't need a one-ton truck for your shop, for your business, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, what have you, you don't need that. A Land Cruiser worked out. So it's very common for our customers to have bought something of that nature and then depreciate it through their business.
Right.
And now it's depreciated and they're looking at trading in and they're getting offers that are low. And like, this was a great vehicle. It was super reliable. I loved it. But now it's fully depreciated. It's better off for me to take it to someone like Slee Off-Road and get it outfitted to do the other things I do in my life. It's less common for us to build a vehicle that someone is building to just go off-road, to test their vehicle, to test their abilities. It's more common for us to build a vehicle to take people to places to do the things they would do. Hunting, fishing, camping, hiking.
Specific.
Specific.
What a great answer.
And it's just a tool to get there versus I want to go destroy this thing and see where it will stop. Which still happens, but that generally is not our clientele. We have a tendency to have a more mature clientele than maybe another. If you think about a four-wheel drive shop, I like to think about four-wheel drive shops with square body Chevrolets with 6 shocks on every corner and pink shock boots and skyjacker lifts and mud dog tires and things like that. That's not us.
Eventually you'll get there though. I mean, if you keep trying.
My personal life and my hobbies, that's a whole different discussion. I mean, I like to be as hillbilly as the rest of them when it comes to building cars and going off road.
Right about a lot of things.
I like to have a good time.
That's true. It's so good.
Mechanical sympathy all over again, right? I've got a Land Cruiser I'm trying to keep together and it's expensive. On the other side of things, I just want to take a square body Chevrolet and go in the mud and have a good time. I mean,
beat the heck out of it.
Yeah, I love your business though. It's pretty awesome. Just your showroom and seeing the amount of expensive vehicles here that sitting in the showroom too, and how much you do know about each individual piece of that. And you have a uniformity. There's a lot of all these cars are painted UN white, and. There was not a decision made to have the color of the cars in the showroom all match. I'm just going to come clean.
There's 3 white UN Tundras out there.
You should just sell UN stickers with big black letters on the side.
I mean, in my personal life, being a car flipper forever, I mean, resale white is the way to go.
Okay, it is.
I mean, I will not hesitate to buy a white car any day.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll drag me screaming to buy a black car. Okay. But resale white is the way to go. That has no correlation with the vehicles that happen to be in the showroom at this moment in time. Only one of them, actually, let me back up. Only 2 of them I'm responsible for. Okay. I mean, there is 3. Sure. But only 2 I'm responsible for.
So. The other one.
That was coincidence.
Per chance, Holy gosh, what were you going to say?
So being the resale Ray, if you will, what's the one that got away? What's the one that you shouldn't have sold? What's the one car or vehicle or bike or whatever?
That is a very good question. It's semi-loaded.
It is semi-loaded, yes.
Here comes the tears.
At the
My
same
philosophy is when it comes to vehicles, and we kind of we joked about Subarus, and I agree with your opinion about Subarus, Sugar. But I agree with that. However, my philosophy when it comes to vehicles, because I truly enjoy them, my goal is to own one of every single vehicle that was ever made. Now, I'm not keeping track, but I would like to own one of everyone and appreciate the benefits and the negatives of it.
Yeah.
Now,
Have the
as my
experience.
wife loves to tell me, I can own every car. I just can't own them at the same time. So
You can't.
I tried to go through them. So there's not a very short, sweet answer of the one that got away.
Okay.
I also remind all my friends that your vehicles that you used to own are kind of like your ex-girlfriends. The memory is always sweeter than the experience. So they're never as good as you remember. And if you do get the opportunity to get one back, you are going to remember why you got rid of it. Especially the one that you worked on a lot that wasn't just a stock car. I mean,
Right.
Oh, I forgot. That harness melted down and I just twisted it and taped those wires back together. And now the thing's broken on the side of the road.
Man.
Oh, I remember why I got rid of this car.
Yeah, meltdown.
I've heard that story
not-
several times.
Meltdown, not stock, and broken down. Yeah, meltdowns. Yeah.
No,
a little bit too close.
Well, now that I'm
To
in my
the metaphor.
50s, I've heard the story from friends that, they had this in high school and then they made some money and they could get it again. And then they were like, 2 years into it, I was like, I remember why I sold it. I remember why I'm no longer
it's never
doing that
sweet
stuff.
the second time.
No, it's not. But a person
There are
like
two
me,
that I would, to answer your question, I have to come up with an answer, and
Okay.
that's fair enough. There are two. On the more simple side of things, I have had the luxury of owning 2 different 911 turbos.
Oh, everyone regrets selling a Porsche.
I am a firm believer that Porsche makes 2 cars.
Yeah.
They make a 911 and a turbo version, and they make other cars.
Amen.
You can choose which one you want to buy. There's a right answer and there's a wrong answer, by the way.
I was a Porsche tech. I understand. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
I had 2 different ones. The more recent one I had was a 2003 996. It was the proper car. It was silver exterior, gray interior. It was the right car. And at the time, this bites me every single time. At the time, I was so happy. I bought it. I drove it for a little bit. I enjoyed it. It was one of those cars which you park it, you cannot help but look back when you walk away. Which is the only kind of cars you should own, by the way.
Amen.
That one was one of the best at doing that. And the beauty of that, the car flipper inside of me is partially leading into this, which is I bought that car, I owned it, I made money on it right away. I made $5,000 on the car, and I thought I won. And then 6 months later, I look back and that car appreciated $15,000. And if I look back now, that car probably appreciated $40,000. And if I can own a beautiful car that is a quality automobile. I own lots of junk. That one is quality. It's intended to go hundreds of thousands of miles and be a fun car.
and you enjoy driving.
I enjoy driving it. If I can own that, oh, by the way, it appreciates.
Yeah.
There's no better way to own a car.
Right.
So I really regret selling that.
Yeah.
For my $5,000 I made on the car real quickly, I definitely should have been more patient. I do have a tendency to jump out of cars that appreciate a little sooner than maybe I should, when that's the only reason I'm getting out of them.
Yeah.
That the 996, any 911 guy would say the 996 was the ugly duckling of the 911s.
I don't agree. It's fine.
However, I am of the opinion, when you look at reliability, the water-cooled side of things, the manual transmission side of things, that engine, it was a very, very quality car. And if you bought the 911 Turbo, which is the only one you buy,
Well, then that's great.
at least it had the proper headlights without the ugly yellow and all the stuff in them. It didn't confuse you as being a Boxster, like every other one. So that was one. One that maybe you guys just listen to your other podcasts, maybe you'll relate to a little bit more. There was a time when I was trying to find the right car that I could buy and own and enjoy and never lose my butt on it.
Okay.
So I decided that I was going to buy or build a 69 Camaro Pro Touring car.
Oh, yeah.
Much like the Porsche,
Heck yeah.
they made an early early Camaro.
Yeah.
They made one, right? That's 69.
Right.
And you only buy the other ones
You're
because you can't find a 69.
That's so funny. Yeah, absolutely.
It's still crazy today with the cars that we have. We talked about the cars that were in our showroom, and one of those cars is a 5th-gen 4Runner.
Yeah.
They made that car for 13 years.
Yes.
13 years.
Yeah.
This arguably the same car, and it got a refreshed nose. It had the same engine. It got dual VVTi. There's some small changes.
Right.
13 years. A 69 Camaro, somebody at Chevrolet decided they're going to do one car for arguably 1 year.
Yeah.
One.
It's insane.
And that was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
We can't do that anymore.
7 and 8 are the same. 70, 71, 72 are the same. Yeah.
It was a 1 year car.
Yeah.
But yeah, I decided I was going to buy or build a 69 Camaro Pro Touring car. And probably like many people, again, this is more your guys' forte and the hot rod side of things. I mean, how many hot rods change hands from when they're started to when they get finished in many cases 3, 4, 5 times before somebody has, one, the energy, and two, the financial backing to actually get the car done.
Right.
So I started with a car that somebody else had started with.
Right.
And, in the 69 Camaro world, when you're buying a car to start with, what are you buying? You're buying a floor and a firewall and a title, right? I mean,
somewhat, yeah.
I mean, the whole front clip's new because it's all junk, and the quarters are new, and the deck lid's new, and I mean, where do you stop? How much of that car is actually 69 Camaro? And then you throw in the pro touring part of things.
Yeah.
Well, the drivetrain's not original, and the subframe's not original, and the brakes are not original, and the suspension's not original, and
there's a cage.
Yeah. So you have a 69 Camaro that's worth good money because of the 69 Camaro, and there's not a single piece of the 69 Camaro in that car. Not any.
Just the VIN tag.
Just the VIN tag and the title, and you had one.
Yeah.
But I do regret, both of those cars that I sold. I mean, everyone will say that the way you make a career racing is you start with $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you end up with zero.
Yeah.
Both of those cars were sold to build race cars.
Oh.
So that the race cars were not financed.
Right.
And,
Well, yeah, a valiant sacrifice.
Those are the ones that got away for specific reasons, though. There's sometimes they got away and you didn't realize how much you loved it, and then after it was gone, you're like, man, I missed the heck out of that thing.
Right.
I didn't realize how much I enjoyed that until now that it's gone.
True.
Some of us don't realize that it's getting away until it's gone.
And most cars are replaceable, right? I mean, we live in an environment where, we're so lucky in this day and age that to drive down the road and see most people have 2, 3, 4, 5 cars in the driveway. I mean, it's a common thing.
Yeah.
So we have cars everywhere, even though they're still in demand and you can still find them. And yes, there's, depending on where you get in the car level of things, there are one-off cars and special things that you can't replace.
Yes.
And then can you enjoy them? Can you drive them? Can you even appreciate them at all other
maintain
than
them.
A collectible thing? Yeah, maintenance.
Yeah. Just maintain 3 cars.
Right.
2 running cars for most people is hard to maintain. Putting tires on every year. I mean, some people have to put tires on and then put snow tires on, and they're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Exactly.
Yeah. Try owning 2 cars and trying to do oil changes and something that goes wrong with them.
Yeah. So, I mean, what kind of off-roading are you into? Because there's a couple of different. There's King of the Hammers, there's Baja racing, and there's rock crawling. I
try to have my hand at all of those.
Cool.
Obviously, there's different ones that have different budgets associated with them.
Amen.
When I grew up in New Mexico, the thing to do is called romping.
Okay.
That means you take your off-road truck, you go drive
and get your
off-road.
Pregnant? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It wasn't on purpose. It was the bump. I mean, what are those supposed to do? It just happened. It just went in.
It just happened.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. But yeah, so
It's essentially taking your off-road truck, maybe two-wheel drive, and destroying it. I mean, that was the description of that.
Yes. Good times.
The luxury of going to school in Farmington is there is a lot of rock crawling.
Okay.
So being into Toyotas and being in Farmington, kind of opened my eyes to rock crawling.
Cool.
Chokecherry Canyon?
Chokecherry Canyon. Yep, that's a very famous trail. I can't say that I did a good job at it. I mean, similar. My first Toyota pickup truck I bought for $500. It was in the back of the dealership that I worked at.
Nice.
The transmission was in every piece it could be in the bed of the truck.
Oh. Okay.
You could see through the sides of the bed because that's what Toyotas did.
Yes.
Sure.
But my $500 truck, when I decided I want to go rock crawling, in stock form when it finally got running, did not do a very good job. So what do? Turns out lockers are way better.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have lockers. Welded. But I had a welder. Yep.
I knew how to weld.
Yep. Just this past weekend, we put 33-inch tires on my son's T100.
Nice.
Well, when I was in college, 33-inch tires were huge. They were monsters. I got my first set of 33s that the center of the 33 didn't have any tread on it, but the lugs on the side were still good.
Yes.
So I got to use 50% of the tire, just the outside 50%. Lincoln locker, Miller locker, whatever you want to refer to it as. Welded diff that you get to go around the corners and chirp everywhere you go. 33-inch tires that were used.
Yeah.
And go have at it at Chokecherry and good luck.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's all you do.
That was the extent of it.
Yeah. That's I think that's every 4-wheeler's beginning is that $500 beater, whether it's a Jeep XJ, a CJ, a Wrangler, the Toyota, whatever,
Yep.
Sugar's Geo.
Geo tracker.
Yeah, just weld the diffs on it, and
The Barbie beach buggy. Yeah.
if you weld the diffs on it, I mean, you're going 100% more places than with open diffs.
You have 100% more traction.
So right then and there, you are technically a rock crawler, air quotes, you know, and at that point, you learn your limits on whether you really want to do that as a fun hobby and stuff, and the limits of the vehicle. Because as soon as you get one stuck, the other one's and you broke something.
Now you have the ability to put more traction down, which means you have the ability to break more parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
What's the most stuck you've ever gotten?
yeah.
Like, what's the most that you've ever? I mean, you said you spent the night in your travel hall, but I mean, that's
I've been stuck a lot.
Yeah. I imagine.
Any air quotes off-roader that goes around and says, I've never been stuck. I mean, anyone who has actually been off-road just been like, well, you obviously didn't try at all.
Yeah, exactly. You got yourself out of the Nordstrom parking lot
Right.
then?
I mean, the most capable vehicle that you can build, an Ultra 4 race car, arguably one of the most capable, difficult terrain vehicles you can build.
Yeah.
Call it 6, 7, 8, 900 horsepower, 40-inch tires, 42-inch tires, lots and lots of travel. Lockers aren't even a question. You either have spools or lockers or a combination of both.
Yep.
You can still get one so stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that difficult to actually get one stuck if you go on a rock crawling trail with an Ultra 4 car that has a long wheelbase and a relatively low belly and trailing arms. You are really, really stuck real quickly.
Yeah.
So I get stuck a lot. But when you have a car like that, it sure sounds pretty when you're trying to get unstuck, right? That's the beauty of it. The saving grace is, yes, I have an arguably expensive car and it's really stuck, but man, it sounds good at about 6,000, 7,000 RPMs. Yeah.
Trying to get itself out.
Yeah.
Yes.
The parts are big, so you can do that for a little while before the parts start flying out.
That's beautiful.
But one of the races we were at in the South, we were arguably doing very, very well. And we had a situation to where, it was a typical, I'm winning.
Yeah.
I'm winning. I passed everybody. I'm winning. I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating ahead of time too soon.
Oh, no.
And we went through this mini sand dune area, and the steering got super heavy, and the brake pedal went to the floor, and the car became completely out of control. Oh, no. And, that was when you stop and say, I should probably check this before we just keep going.
Yeah. Right.
And the front axle housing had sheared off on the axle tube, right where the shocks mount next to the knuckle. It had sheared off, and the whole corner had come out of the car, and it was just rotating on the axle shaft, rotating in the tube. It had ripped the brake line off.
Perfect.
And we were in a very precarious situation. In the car now, it will not roll, it will not drive.
Right.
It's late at night. I thought possibly that, with the whole corner ripped off the car, it's possible that this thing will not come out of here tonight.
Right.
But it's surprising when you actually go to fix stuff and you have some tools and some friends and some support. And I had a friend with a chase truck, even though we didn't need one for that race. And he had an onboard generator and an onboard welder and multiple jacks and jack stands and a lot of talent. Grinders, corded grinders that actually last a long time, and all the abrasives and all the stuff.
Okay.
We were able to put that back together and kind of limp it out of there. But you needed a working 4-wheel drive car to get out of that situation, and that was probably one of the more difficult ones. And I've broke a lot of stuff. As silly as it sounds, we were in a race where we locked up the motor. We made a poor decision prepping the car, and the motor got starved, and we were out on the racetrack, and the motor and pistons literally welded themselves to the cylinder walls.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Been there.
And on a car that is an automatic, on a car that has full hydraulic steering, it's interesting to see how quickly you can have a worthless vehicle that was very capable when you have no steering and you have an automatic transmission with a motor that's locked up. I mean, you're kind of just dead in the water.
It's a dead rock.
You're neutral that can't turn.
Yeah.
So
it's a
you
dead
get yourself
rock
in trouble really, really, really quickly.
Wow. Was this competition kind of scenarios, or you're just?
Those were all competition scenarios. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that we started rock crawling. Again, it was partially budget and partially just that's where the world was, right? Rock crawling was new. It was new in Farmington.
Right.
At that time, I was still a little bit Nissan guy, so we go to the Nissan dealer, and the parts manager of the Nissan dealer had 2 4Runners. 2. Both of them had lockers. Lockers were like $600.
Yeah.
He was rich.
Yeah.
One was solid axle and one was independent suspension, and he wheeled them all the time. I mean, he was rich.
He was very rich.
2 4Runners with lockers. I couldn't
Probably with
believe-
33s
they had
too, right?
33s, dual transfer cases.
What? He had Marlin crawlers back then?
Yes.
Jeez.
It had come a long ways, but that was part of what got me into the off-road side of things is all, you can fabricate, you can build those. At that time, building suspension to where most everybody had leaf springs still. And if you didn't have leaf springs, you might have had a quarter elliptic leaf spring or a full elliptic leaf springs. That's stuff that you could build in your driveway.
Yeah.
And that was so neat. There wasn't as much 4-link and coilovers and such.
No.
You were still going to the auto parts store and saying, can you pull out all the shocks in the back? And they look at you like you're crazy and go, I just want to find the longest one.
Yeah.
That's it. I just need a long shock.
Yeah.
What do you have that's really, really long?
Right.
Going to the junkyard and pulling leaves out of whatever random cars you can to make your own leaf packs.
Yep.
So it was something you could do and learn, and it was rewarding because it wasn't just writing a check for everything.
I still do it, actually.
There's nothing wrong with it, right?
No, it's great.
Come full circle to hot rod stuff, and you're scouring the junkyards to get that part that you have to have.
Yes.
Not because you want to use part, not because that's that's what you need to complete the project.
And I can rebuild it.
Because you've dug yourself into the cul-de-sac and you can't. Everything, is.
I've got 2 broken ones here. If I go to the junkyard and get a third one, I could put one good one together.
Well, and also it's custom things. It's like you have to Frankenstein everything together and see if it lives. But
and not to go on a full tangent the other way, but this past few years with COVID and everything, one of the things that taught me, everybody in the world was without.
Yes.
If you had a car that broke, you have a brand new car. It's under warranty. Yeah. There's a thing that broke on it. It was unavailable. You go to the dealership, your car's under warranty, you're thinking, I'm good. I don't need to know about cars. It's going to be taken care of. I'm taking my truck in. It doesn't work. And they tell you, well, the part you need, we diagnosed it, and it's not available. It's on back order. It may be you're here in 6 months. Your catalytic converters got stolen off your truck. They're on back order. We can't get them.
Right.
Having the ability to find a workaround because you have those kinds of backgrounds.
Yes.
Say, you know what? Maybe I can't buy a catalytic converter at the junkyard because it's illegal, but I can straight pipe this thing and drive it until my catalytic converter comes in. If my harness got cut because the rats got in there and the dealership's telling me that this engine harness that's specific to this truck, knowing, hey, it's no big deal. I know the sites on the internet that tell me where the junkyards are, that I can go pick up the parts. They show me what cars are in there. I know that I can kind of butcher this thing together to get it running. To me, that was so rewarding to have that background. And I'm sure it was that way in a lot of different industries.
Yes.
But that comfort that when everybody has nothing, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, you still can't fix this with money.
Right.
Having that background and that history that I can be self-sufficient. I will always have a car that runs.
No matter what.
To find a way.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of value in that, again, going back to when we were talking about finding technicians and hiring people, people that have that mindset, that ability to, dig your heels in and know that there's a solution to this one way or another, even if the normal path is not there to get to it. I think that is less likely to find anymore, but it should be rewarded a lot more.
Wow.
Well said. Well said.
So if you're finding your way out, what's one thing that you have to have with you in a truck if you're going off-road? If you go camping or something like that, is there a tool?
What's the one thing Ben always takes with him?
My copy of Catcher in the Rye. Song in my heart.
I'm not no good at reading.
I ain't no good at that.
Okay, well then, my cassette tape of the Go-Go's.
That's a great question. I'm notorious the guy who likes to pack light.
Right.
It's a little less work to pack light. It's less work to unpack when you pack light.
Yeah.
However, it catches me often where I should have packed a little bit more.
Yeah.
Christo that owns the shop here that I work with, when we do things together, he's the opposite.
He packs everything.
He's putting something in where I'm going through the other door and taking it out and putting it away. And he overpacks everything. We end up with very, very heavy vehicles that arguably break because we put so much stuff in them. So trying to find that balance, but that works out well. But yeah, notoriously, I'm the guy who doesn't take enough stuff.
Okay.
But there's always the one thing that you take.
I'm trying to think. There's so many different scenarios to answer your question fairly. I'm trying to be honest here. I could make something up to answer your question, but that's not my intention here.
Yeah, lie to me.
Okay. So did you do the Ultimate Adventure?
Yes, we actually did the Ultimate Adventure two different years.
What's the one thing you took on both trips then?
Not necessarily Ultimate Adventure based, but a tow strap is so important. Again, going back to a kid and not knowing better, I used to flat tow cars that I would either buy or broke down on me with a chain. I would wrap the chain around the bumper or the leaf spring or something, and I would hope that I could tie a chain in a knot.
Yes.
That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
Just having a chain drag on the ground and yank you out is a terrible idea.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Getting to the point of understanding not only a proper nylon strap, but the difference between a Dynamic strap and a static strap goes a long ways.
It does.
But, if you're broken on the trail or broken on the side of the highway, just to get the vehicle to somewhere to go, having a proper strap and then obviously the shackles or whatever you need on the ends, not a hook, by the way. I have done that as well. I mean, I'm not too proud of any of that. I've used a ratchet strap.
Me too.
An 1.5-inch ratchet strap to pull cars places. And with an open hook on the end, I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
But I have done it.
I've had to use the ratchet strap in, short mile tows, 1-inch ratchet strap that you should not ever put more than, an emergency situation. It'll get you somewhere. But,
Yeah.
I mean, the huge value is the seatbelt, right? I mean, if you go to the pick and pull, a seatbelt is a godsend. You pull motors with seatbelts.
Yes.
I mean, there's so much you could do with a seatbelt.
That's hilarious. I never thought.
Yeah,
That's
between the seatbelt and the floor mats, because you're always working in the mud and the oil and the gunk. I usually go to the trunks first, try to pull out the cargo liner or the cargo pad, and put that down. So you got to go find the nice car. When you work under the pick and pull, you find the cargo pad first. That stays with you all day. You don't leave that.
No,
someone will take it.
Somebody will use it.
So you take the cargo pad, and then if you're
trash
picking something heavy up, a transmission or something, then you go find yourself a good seatbelt. And cut that out.
The serpentine belt and the seat belt. Those are my two favorite things to go to. Use the serpentine belt on small areas where you can't get the seat belt, and then the seat belt is also one that you can tie in a knot. You can put a bolt through it, and it'll not tear right away.
Oh, that's funny.
But you can put a bolt through it, and it'll pick up for a little while, and then you can redo it.
These are great tech tips.
Yeah, seat belts and
Sugar, I feel like you've not
belts.
spent enough time at a pick and pull yet.
I have, but
it's like my favorite pastime.
I've been doing it wrong. That's awesome.
When I go there, I don't even need anything. I go walk the yard. Even if I need one thing, I'll usually go walk the yard just to see what's
Isn't it
there.
fun?
Because it'll
Absolutely.
create new ideas that I have, projects that I didn't even know I needed.
Do you remember Spiegel's down on off of Santa Fe?
I do not.
The junkyard. He had like that. He had a helicopter out front, and it was like a homemade helicopter,
And it was like 70s and older cars. It was, he had
Okay.
stuff all the way back to the 40s.
I'm trying to get him.
that
on
would be
the
part of the
show.
reason I
have
didn't
a
know it
friend who knows him, and he said no 4 times already to get on the.
He hasn't said no 5 times.
No, he hasn't. And I'm gonna do it, but it's great. Yeah, exactly. Pick and pull and everything else is great.
And that's also where you learn stuff, right? It's someone else's car. It's not yours.
Yeah.
If you look, how many guys go over there and say, I want to learn how to take this apart on this car. Yeah. Now, when I'm the guy that comes up behind you and says, I needed that part, and you took it all apart, and it's the only one in the yard, I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, it's a little sad, but
I like to think that you do a little more responsibly of, I still need this part. I still have this car. I want to learn how to take it apart, then buy the part, then take it home, and now I know. And I may take all the nuts and bolts that held it on, and I might put those in my pocket so I have extras.
Of course.
It's not.
And they don't charge you for that.
Right? Yeah, they don't charge you.
Ironically,
don't
I
worry
think
about
the last time I was at a pick and pull, I was cutting out the battery box of a 280Z.
Really?
Yeah, to weld into another customer's car. So that's kind of funny. But because you're doing mostly newer Toyotas. I mean, what's the oldest thing that you guys are seeing come through the door?
Would be early 90s stuff would be the oldest,
okay.
and that is becoming difficult. The support isn't there from the manufacturers to service these cars. So, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of, friends I have in the industry and the industry going to, we won't touch anything that's 2000 and older.
Really?
Because we can't get the parts for it.
Okay.
And, we joked about, the conversations you have with the customer and what you can and cannot do and your limitations.
Yes.
Well, how good do you feel when you're working on someone's car and you are forced to use inferior parts to service that car? Yeah. You can explain to someone till you're blue in the face that you use an inferior part because there's nothing else available. Okay. It still comes on you to fix the car and it be reliable. Yeah. So it is. I mean, I think it's going to become a huge problem to own these older cars if the support's not there. They have to get so old that the aftermarket companies fully support them.
Right.
But there's a huge gap between what the manufacturers are offering, and
when
again,
they
that goes
stop and when the aftermarket catches
exactly
up,
a huge gap. Are there going to be any left when they make it through that gap?
Right.
There may not be there.
You're so right because obviously we're building cars from the 20s and 30s, and hot rodding, and but we're making them whole new out of brand new parts,
Yes.
And Holley owns every aftermarket American company now, and so that
They literally do.
So now parts talk to each other now because a Holley sniper kit can talk to any other Holley
Dakota Digital
stuff and things like this. Yeah, so that's huge, that integration, and so there's benefits to that. But that gap, like you're saying, of the 1980s and 90s, I mean, of getting, I don't know how you do it now. If I had to get like some kind of if I had a Mitsubishi Conquest or a Mitsubishi Starion or something like that.
Very cool looking car.
Amen.
Terrible car. Very cool looking car.
And I had to get, a valve cover. I don't know, anything. Engine parts or something. Maybe it has some enough in common, but yeah, you're sunk.
Yeah.
Unless it was so overbuilt that there's a lot of them in the junkyard still.
Get an ECU,
Right.
or you fashion your standalone, and that's how you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's ways around it, stuck on the side of the road, I guess, but I don't know. I'm just saying that I'm not going to start a Conquest and start it on the dealership, But
I don't know. You might have a niche there.
It sounds like your heart is in it.
yeah, I'll have 6 or 7 customers from around the world.
It's probably just like the DeLorean customer. If you have a DeLorean, I had a friend of mine that had a DeLorean, and we joked that every time he would drive it to work and park it, it was magic. He would send this magic signal out to everyone that had DeLoreans. And next thing you know, there's 5 guys in the parking lot on a car that arguably doesn't exist very much.
Right.
Just come out of the woodwork. Maybe Storions will be that way. You'll have 100 of them.
I hope so one day. Yeah, exactly. That was the car I was born to work on. No. But like with I guess going from here then, so the newer cars, hybridization. Do you frown on electrified vehicles for off-road? Do you see the benefit in it, or are you?
That is a loaded question. And
Yeah.
granted, I mean, in the off-road world,
Or do
specifically for us, I
you
mean,
no
being with
longer have a
Toyota,
choice?
right? Toyota, I would say, has some of the best reliability when it comes to electrification as a whole.
As their hybrid.
Yeah, compared to most other manufacturers out there.
Okay.
Which on one side of things, I would argue that they're the best and the most reliable because they have the most experience. On the flip side, Toyota's the first guys that have put their hand up in there and say, fully electric battery EV
Yeah.
is not the answer.
Right.
Which it's interesting to see that conflict, that black and white from that manufacturer.
Yeah, I love them for that though.
Yeah,
Just
I think it's
making that
great.
statement.
They're willing to put their foot in their mouth if it comes to that, and they've proven that not be the case.
Right.
Because they're right.
Yes.
They are
Full
right.
EV is not the answer.
I mean, I think everybody in the United States is having this conversation, even looking at their driveway. Hey, do I put a BEV car, that electric vehicle in my driveway? Is it the right answer? I mean, I don't expect this to be political conversation, but the government is, essentially pushing it.
Yes.
I am all for electric vehicles as long as they stand on their own merits.
Yes.
As soon as, my personal opinion, as soon as the government gets involved and starts taking arguably our tax money and giving it to people and substituting for that price, I have a hard time with it. Again, don't want to go too much on a tangent of the political side of things, but I have a hard time. If you build a shitty car, you should not get support from the government to support that shitty car.
Yeah, and basically what you're saying is let's go Brandon, and I get you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So that part of things I think is good. The flip side that we deal with on a daily basis is we are building vehicles for off-road.
Yes.
The type of range and the type of reliability, the type of maintenance that has to come with that is completely different than the car that I personally may choose to drive to work every day. Completely different.
Yeah. It doesn't offend. Yeah, exactly. And I'll do electrification when it is better than internal combustion in almost every way. But it has to be better, and it's not right now based on whatever infrastructure and cost and I don't think environmental.
New studies are showing that the full electric vehicles are more emissions than the gasoline vehicles because
Depends on the lifespan that you measure, right?
Because the brake wear, the tire wear, they have more road wear. They're heavier. They wear the roads faster. I mean,
but also just the obsolescence of them immediately. I mean,
I see a lot of battery electric vehicles similar as I see my cell phone.
yeah.
It works.
Yeah,
I hit the button, the light comes on, I charge it, it works. The day it stops doing that, there is really not much support to fix it.
No.
And the only option is to buy another one, throw it in the trash, for the most part.
Amen.
And that's where I have a lot of frustration. The other part of things, being in the car world, being a technician, having all that experience, is when you have these new car manufacturers that are not supported the way the traditional car manufacturer is.
Okay.
And not to pick on anyone specifically, but if you go with a Tesla,
Yeah.
if I personally buy a used Tesla
Yeah.
and I have to work on it, can I go to the auto parts store and buy an OBD2 reader and pull the codes on there?
No.
I can't. I can't talk to that car. Can I walk into the Tesla dealership and say, I need a windshield wiper and a right front fender and a headlight. Oh, and by the way, I need this harness, this engine harness for this because mine got damaged from rodents. Right. They will look at me like I have 3 eyes and they'll send me on my way. To me, that is a huge problem. Why are we not holding those car companies accountable to the same way? Legally, I should have the ability to fix and repair my own car.
they're doing
independent of who makes it.
And the farmers are having that problem with John Deere and stuff. Where,
right to repair laws. Yeah.
Yes. So that's a fine line that they're pushing us towards, and I don't want to walk that line.
So whether it's electric or not, if you have the same situation on a internal combustion engine from a manufacturer, I'm going to have the same gripe with it. I mean, cars are getting so software based.
Yes.
And obviously that is an issue as well, because the same problem. We don't have the access to that software as a third party repair facility or as a vehicle owner. Equally important. The amount of stuff they're fixing with software. And if you can't see it and you can't understand it, it makes it a little bit more difficult. I have always been a proponent of later model software and new technology, always. Kind of the business that we're in, looking forward and always having the parts and the support and understanding the newest cars. Always been a proponent for that. And the guy that comes in goes, I want the old pickup truck with the transfer case shift lever on the floor and the locking hubs on the 4-wheel drive. Right. And, my answer always was, well, you don't trust the electronics. I get it, but your headlights turn on, right? Like, you turn the switch. You trust when you turn the switch, the power goes through the switch, it goes through the relay, it goes through the fuse, and the headlights come on. And when it doesn't, you fix it. Right. So when you turn the knob and your transfer case doesn't go into 4-wheel drive, you fix it.
You fix it.
And arguably, it makes there's a discussion that it can make a better car by not having a hole with the shift knobs coming through the floor and a rubber boot that lets everything in, and mechanical linkage that can freeze up under the car where all the corrosion is. You could arguably discuss that is a worse car. I am really changing my tune with the cars that are coming out now. It's not that way, right? No. I don't trust them. I don't have the tools to fix them. Right. And I'm not allowed to have the tools to fix them.
That's the biggest thing. We're not allowed to fix them. We're not allowed to access the software to see why that car isn't running, why that car feels like it can't open its doors, because everything's electronic.
Because it does open its own doors.
Cool.
So I love the technology. And I think that we may have the things that you guys enjoy to do and your background and my background, I think there might be some differences in there. I mean, I was factory trained by Toyota. That's what I went to school for. Right. And, I learned, you don't learn how to fix cars at school. You learn possibly where to find the answers that you're asking. I graduated school, and most of the class I graduated with, I would not trust to change the oil in my truck when we graduated. Now, some people I graduated with and I'm still friends with today are not that way, and that's why we're like-minded and we're still friends. But for the most part, you can send people through school till you're blue in the face. If they don't have the aptitude, they don't put forth the energy, you can still graduate with a diploma and you don't know how to do the job. Right. But because I learned the ways. A dancer's body. I don't understand that. Still today, I have access through the company of going in and. Sorry. Okay, I just want to throw that in real quick. You're going on the whole other field.
No, that's where we talk.
My daddy said that I can do anything I want when I grow up. Therefore, when I walk into this job, my dad said.
The new path of this podcast from now on out.
It's a different podcast.
No, it's not. It is this one now from now on.
I have the right to be a dancer because my daddy told me I could be a dancer. Therefore, you have to hire me because I have the right to be what I want to be and be happy.
I do have that joke with my dad. Whenever he starts in public in restaurants, he goes, "You should get a job over at Lockheed Martin because I know they're hiring and stuff." And I just want to work on cars, so I start screaming at him. Even I did this once when I was in my 30s or whatever, talking to him and going and saying, I will not have your life. I will not do what you're doing. And he knows that I'm doing the joke, so he's in on it. But he's like, and then I go, I want to be a dancer, and I will not go down your path of your war machine. But
he's got a cool portal.
But whatever. But it's so funny because it's just, those are on deaf ears because he knows the humor because he raised me with that humor. But it's so I can't get him to crack on it. But it's great.
The problem is it's not funny to everybody. Some people are serious. Yeah, but the person sitting next to you in the booth behind you at the restaurant.
You're right. The joke gets less and less funny. Yeah, exactly. As we get more and more, everybody's a winner in participation. Yeah. Well, what's the future then of Slee? You think? Is there value in if you're running tools if you could have a hybrid car or a truck that had the ability, like a plug-in to run tools and run welders on it, that would be pretty awesome.
That would be pretty awesome.
And that could be useful. But what do you think, if they come out with an electric Tacoma, can you add value to that customer?
On one hand, I love the part where Toyota and other manufacturers are learning that we can use the electrification for power.
Yes.
We can do a hybrid system and we can use it for power, and the consumer enjoys that.
Yes.
I like that aspect of it. You are not 100% reliant on it, and you are arguably charging the battery as you drive the vehicle. So now your range can be increased.
The vehicle's self-sufficient. Then.
Yes, I think that's extremely important for, I mean, we live in Colorado. There's lots of places we go. I mean, we're next to Kansas. We're next to Wyoming. There's a lot of places you go where you don't have the luxury of charging along the way.
Right.
And when you do, it may not work. It may take too long. I mean, the idea that I may need to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning, and if I didn't plug my car in, I can't leave and I have to wait for an hour, that's a problem. So the fact that people are taking the electrification and making power with it and making efficiency, but it's not based on it, I like that aspect.
Yes.
In our industry, it's very common to add auxiliary fuel tanks to things to increase the range.
Yeah.
I can see in the future where we may be adding on battery packs into things to increase the range. So it's an aftermarket battery with support.
There you go.
The technology for integrating that from a software side of things obviously needs to come hand in hand. Sure. But I think that is great. The rest of the components of the car, they're still there.
Yeah.
One of the things I love to geek out on is suspension systems.
Me too.
Whether you're going off-road or not going off-road, the need for a good quality suspension is still there. Driving down the road in Colorado, nobody ever drove down the road in Colorado and said, my suspension's too good. My truck drives too good, it handles too good. I don't want this. I wish I didn't do this.
Never
Yeah,
said that.
we were having this conversation on the drive over here. Actually.
Yeah. He pointed out a Tundra. He's go, it's got Fox off-road shocks. It's got Fox this. It's not good. It's not even lifted. I go, there's nothing wrong with a quality ride and not being lifted.
Absolutely nothing.
I bet that truck drives really, really nice, and I bet it's nice to ride in.
How are you going to show off your cool Fox shocks if you're not lifted?
You saw him. You saw him from the driver's seat, and he was on my side.
But I'm an intuitive person, and so I can see these things.
You can see through the tires.
Exactly. I'm not falling for that one.
You got the remote reservoirs, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay.
I guarantee we've all ruined cars by lowering them to where not only do they not ride good and kick their kidneys out of the side, but there's no traction because the tire's bouncing off the road the whole time. And, I mean, it looks cool, and yes, it handles good if you go around a perfectly flat, smooth corner, but it's miserable.
It's miserable. And from that, I've decided everything should be lifted. 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, everything should be lifted.
To an extent.
Once you lower it, it's ruined. So
you need to be in the sweet spot.
Everything needs to be lifted.
You are hinting on a thing that more recently I have decided in my life. I've owned a lot of cars. The cars that I choose to keep, I actually have gotten rid of anything that is car-based because it creates so much stress in my life.
Yes.
To have a bumper that can get hit on a parking block, to have a wheel that can get curbed really easy, no sidewall, no suspension.
Yes.
And I've had a lot of them. I've been a little bit of a glutton. I had a Lexus GSF. I don't know if you know what those are, but it's a rear-wheel drive 5-liter motor.
car.
I had a GSF. I was intrigued by Toyota supporting the Toyota Corolla GR, which is their rally-based car.
Right.
I think it is misunderstood because people see it as a road car and I see it as a rally car. And I feel like you need to drive that car in like
It's
loose
a
traction
homologation
service.
special.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
It's
that
not
is.
people complain about, I was driving around the track for 4 hours and it overheated the rear diff. Well, if the truck was made out of dirt, you wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, I sold all that. I added in a Ram TRX into my collection, and just having a truck, I love what Dodge did.
Yes.
They kind of threw all the caution to the wind.
Amen.
Yes.
And not only did they take a motor that's already proven to be great in all their cars and said, how much is enough horsepower? Because we want to give you more.
Yeah.
However much is too much is we want to make sure we give you that much.
Yes.
We're going to package this in a full-size pickup, and then we're going to make it wider by 6 inches.
And make it so it can float.
Yes. And that truck, even though all the things that it has is arguably good for going off-road, the on-road ability is beautiful.
Yes.
It never needs to go off-road for you to enjoy the truck. You just drive down the road. If there's road construction, if there's traffic, if there is bad weather, you don't care.
No.
Right.
If you go into a corner and you're having a good time driving, again, air quotes, enthusiastically, and you get out of control and you might drive over the curb, you drive over it. You don't drive into it.
Right.
You don't leave the wheel and tire laying there with the suspension hanging out.
It doesn't
You
scuff
turn
the
the wheel, you get the tire to hit the curb properly, you drive over it, and you keep on going.
Yes.
I mean, it's brilliant.
Yes.
Gosh, oh yeah, I imagine. Yeah, any median in that mall parking lot would be toast. But
And none of that's going to change. Independent of how the truck is or the car is powered, suspension is always going to be there.
Yes.
I know I watched some of the videos. I am both intrigued and very disappointed with a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Like the styling, I can't get behind. I mean, I get that you're trying to get attention, and it gets that. It does the job right.
It's supposed to be bulletproof, whatever.
Bulletproof to an extent, right?
Yeah.
No off-road car can get stuck until it gets stuck. It's not bulletproof, or it's bulletproof until there's a hole that goes through it.
Right. Right.
But
The suspension underneath is not.
you watch it off-road. I mean, it is a car.
It doesn't do.
Yeah, it's car suspension. It has a lot of party tricks that it comes with. However, I've watched the videos. I'd love to learn about the technology on the backside. Yeah. The biggest thing that I take away of the brilliance of that vehicle, we're all used to either 6-volt electrical systems or 12-volt electrical systems, depending on how you go back. Right. There's a limitation to how many amps you can put through a certain amount of wire on 12 volts. Yep. And off-road, we're doing a lot of electrical with lighting. We're doing a lot of power ports. We're doing a winch on there. Yeah. And you can only package so much and get so much power to that winch to give it power. On the Tesla Cybertruck, they went to 48-volt running system. The amount of wire you can now make smaller diameter because you're going to have higher voltage, less amperage. The winch that you could run on a car with 48 volts is amazing. So even though I think it's silly, the truck is silly. Granted, the performance side of things is still great, right? I would love to have that in every vehicle I own to have that kind of performance.
Porsche and beat a Porsche with the.
Yeah. I love that aspect of it. I'm intrigued by it, but that in of itself, the fact that Elon Musk, if he truly is the one that decided this, or it was probably someone who is actually the guy who does it, was told to do it. I don't know. I don't live there.
Right. Sets a bar and then and says you have to jump this high.
Exactly. I'll figure. I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out because he said to do it.
He said to do it.
That in itself is that small piece that I think gets forgotten in the technology. That is a great thing. That can carry on to everything else we're doing as modifiers of vehicles, as off-roaders, as building cars.
I see.
And if we can keep those little pieces that come out and not let them go to the wayside, I think we have a chance at modifying vehicles and really growing with this and not making it a detriment.
And not having it be a failure.
Correct.
And having it be something we can grow with, like the internal combustion engine cars.
Exactly.
And have battery packs that we add. Like nitrous.
Yeah. I mean, if you truly want to be green, and I'm just going to put this out there because hopefully the whole world listens to this podcast. Yeah. If you truly want to be green, you're going to go buy yourself a 1995 Corolla.
Yes.
I mean, the fuel mileage is great.
Zero emissions.
The emissions and everything it took to make that car has already been written off 10 times over.
Right.
So your fuel mileage is good. Mm-hmm. Driving down the road is less wear and tear on everything. I mean, everything about it is more green than buying a new car and patting yourself on the back that you did a good job.
Yeah.
Just be honest with yourself. I want a fast EV car that looks cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Go buy 50 of them. There's nothing wrong.
A great Plaid is nothing to complain about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. But don't try to tell me that it's better. I have nothing wrong with EVs. I have nothing wrong with people buying as many Teslas as they can, as many German EVs. I mean, buy as many as you want. Right. Just don't try to convince me that you only bought it because it was green. Because if you did, you wouldn't have bought that car.
Right.
That's it.
And the laws that defy that thinking or contradict or whatever that thinking is the
cash for clunkers.
That was one of the lowest points of my automotive career.
Yes.
Was having to pour that glass sluice down into an engine and let it run until it died, until it seized. We had to do that on a bunch of cars at the dealership when I was living there, practically living there. But yeah, and so it was. Of course, it was one of those things. This is past the statute of limitations, so that's one I'm sure. But like finding an Explorer there that we had to go sacrifice for the green gods, and then. And finding a guy in there, I go, who has the Ranger? Who's parking here? You're getting new wheels. You're getting a new radio right now. And he comes over and goes, what? And I go, park your car next to this Explorer right now and help me grab floor jacks. And he swapped out his tires. We got a new deck inside. He got a new steering wheel. We got a bunch of things, as much as we could. And I said, give me your old parts like that. And 30 minutes pitched crew or whatever. We did that on a couple of different cars and we were told, because I had to do that before the guy came out to photograph it before and after we ruined the engine. It was so funny, but I'm like going, how do we save a little bit of this? But
I mean, that's recycling at its finest, right?
Yeah,
that's green. It's recycling. And you feel like you have to cheat the system to recycle. That is where the silliness comes in.
Yeah, because we're already naturally doing that. And so I don't want any laws to tell me how to already naturally do this. And I wonder how many, if we were just left alone without regulation, how much cleaner, how much more efficient, how much more safe and capable these vehicles could be. You know, which instead of having these guidelines, which I don't know. Sometimes if you're a creative person, you need a border to hit up against,
Correct.
And
Sometimes,
and you can't just say because there's nothing scarier than a blank canvas, and just say, yeah, but do whatever you want, It's like, well, what is my budget? What's my time?
Right.
But within
how many paints do I have?
that timeline, we figured out how to get the most out of that dead car. We know how to get all the good parts off of it and then recycle what's left and melt down the metal and make another car out of it. We figured
but that's not the solution of being green.
No, that's what I'm saying. That Cash for Clunkers was a mistake.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those cars could have been used in the used part LKQ realm of everything.
Well, they were sold to junkyards, though. So
were they?
Yeah, they
There
were.
was some backdoor deals of, yes, this is supposed to be crushed, but yet I got the deal on this, so I get all the cars, and then I get to put them for sale. I just won't sell the engines because they have
So they're off the road.
Well, they're off the road, but that is, in my mind, the opposite of green, is getting a bunch of cars that have already been arguably rode off for the energy it took to build them, and then purposely decommissioning them.
Destroy them, so you have to buy new cars.
Yeah, and in that same vein, I guess, is it true like Land Cruisers are built differently than other Toyotas? Is there different? Yeah, because you would know the inside of a scoop. I guess.
To an extent, I would say yes.
Okay.
It's still not this, and I'm going to have some Land Cruiser guys, I'm sure, that are going to be up in arms, but I mean, they're not magic cars, right? No. It's still a mechanical thing. They still break. I know. Bursting bubbles, killing babies. They're not magical cars. Now, if you run a whole bunch of cars next to each other and look at how they're built and the quality, yes, there is something to that.
Okay.
I mean, they are. The neat thing with the Land Cruiser and how it gets that way is that it is a single model that is built for all the needs of the world. Right? We have cars that are built for North America, and they have a set of rules that they need to be designed with.
Right.
If you're building a car and you're saying, hey, this thing's going to go to Dubai and get beat on in the sand dunes, and it's going to go to Africa and be driven on corrugated roads its whole life, and it's going to go to Australia and be driven across the desert there, and it's going to go to Japan, it's going to have salt trying to attack it all the time. It's going to go to Canada, and it's going to go to Russia. The parameters you have to build that vehicle to have to be better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they won't live. And if they don't live, no one's going to buy them, and they're not going to be around from the 50s.
So to be able to live in all those different environments is a completely different animal. Yes.
So those are the design parameters, and because of that, it makes it a better vehicle. Now, there's a certain point of it, when you look at the Toyota line, that is the more expensive car. Yeah. I would like to think that when the engineer has their free reign, they say, this is your budget to build a car, your budget to design a Corolla and your budget to design a Land Cruiser are going to be two different budgets.
Right.
So you have the room. I mean, every car, for the most part, has one steering wheel. Every car is going to have, a certain amount of seats in it. If your budget is higher to build that same steering wheel, I hope that you do a better job at it.
Yes.
You can put engineering in it, and the Japanese have learned how to test more and reinvest. The government helps them reinvest into their metallurgy and make it better and better and better and better instead of just coming out with new technology all the time. Right. So that does trickle down into the Land Cruiser. Yeah. But this idea that I bought a Land Cruiser, it should never break. Again, it's mechanical. Your battery's going to go dead. Your alternator is going to go out. Sure. The hoses are going to,
Yeah, but a lot later than the Alfa Romeos. But
right.
So I guess if you're buying if you're tasked with, I need you to go around the globe, the circumference of the Earth, then is it Land Cruiser every time? Is it LX 570 every time?
I have yet to go around the Earth to have that firsthand experience. Hopefully that'll happen. There's places I honestly don't have any desire to go already.
And once you hit the coast, it's going to be tough.
Right. But yeah, my understanding is it's going to be Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times, even in Land Cruiser, it gets confusing because if you look at the heritage of Land Cruiser, there is heavy-duty Land Cruiser and light-duty Land Cruiser that are not the same. Land Cruiser, earlier we were talking about, Land Cruiser 80 Series, 100 Series, 200 Series, now 300 Series is heavy-duty Land Cruiser in the U.S. Yeah. In non-U.S., you start getting into a lot of the pickup truck-based stuff, 75 Series, 79 Series, and that truly is what is considered even more so heavy-duty Land Cruiser. Oh. But that is a pretty simple vehicle. Okay. Then on the other side of the family tree, you have a light-duty Land Cruiser, which includes a lot of Land Cruiser Prado stuff. Okay. We have a new quote-unquote Land Cruiser coming in the United States here in the next couple months. That in our world, in the U.S. world, that we've only ever had one kind of Land Cruiser for any given year. Yeah. We don't know any different because we haven't been taught. Right. We have a Land Cruiser coming down that we're told is new Land Cruiser. Well, arguably it's called Land Cruiser 250, and in the whole rest of the world, that same truck is being called Land Cruiser Prado, which falls under the light-duty Land Cruiser side of the tree. Sure.
That makes sense. Okay.
We kind of get stuck without a current heavy-duty Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
But if we're talking a heavy-duty Land Cruiser, then yes, I think you go around the whole world, and that's where Land Cruiser got its heritage, is with the durability, but more so to some extent on the stuff that we never got. So we're just not familiar with it. You know, a 79 Series Land Cruiser, which they still currently make, you know, it's a
cool.
basic thing. And part of the reason it's good is, one, it doesn't make any power. Two, it's very, very basic inside. You know, many countries, they still don't have to worry about airbags and crumple zones and things of that nature. So we'll just make the frame super rigid and durable, and it doesn't have to crumple when you get in an accident.
Right.
And people love it.
Yep.
They keep it on their farm.
They can keep beating it and beating it.
Exactly. We keep this thing simple.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, it is a better, more durable car, but part of it is because it's simple. Part of it's because they've been re-engineering that same tool over and over and over and over again. And it doesn't get the new technology right away, right? I don't get the 14-inch touchscreen that I can do all the stuff with. No. And when that doesn't work, now all of a sudden half the stuff, half my features in my car I'm locked out of. It doesn't have that.
Yeah, they're not cutting edge. Like, I mean, Audi was cutting edge. I remember when I worked at an Audi dealership, and they were really unreliable because they were always the first to market on things and unproven, and they'll fix it on the next car once they see the highest warranty claims. That was a confession from an engineer I had. But they're it's like people saying, "Oh, well, I got more technology in my wristwatch than the space program had," because if you had a cutting edge thing that was unproven and you didn't have a slide rule in your pocket and you're literally 1,000,000 miles away from Earth, then it's like you have to fix it there. We have to know that it's durable or whatever, or it's been done, or it's been totally proven. And so, with that Land Cruiser, I know that they're not first to market on things, you know, but they're. And I think that's why my sister bought a Mercedes GLS instead of a Land Cruiser that I was begging her to get, and then sold it, you know, pretty quick, versus would have had the, you know, retired and and driven that to the retirement home.
Right.
So we'll see. But
as a car guy, some of that stuff is good, right? You can buy the car that came out with technology that depreciated so fast, and you're buying it 10 years into its lifespan, and you're buying this very inexpensive car that has all these features. And if you have the luxury of knowing how to fix it, knowing how to get around some of the costly ways to maintain it, you get to drive some cool stuff, right? I mean, that's one of the things I've always enjoyed. Then it pays back the other way, because when you go to sell it, turns out it's not worth any more either.
But you get your money back.
You get your money back for it, but you get to experience those things. Whereas, some of the better cars that have more or better resale on them, they may be a little bit more boring.
I have an impossible question for you. Okay, average.
Another one.
Average price. But I want. But you guys, you're versed in this. So, average price of a new car right now is about $45,000.
That's the average price. I thought that'd be on the lower side.
Yeah, I know.
Low. Like entry.
But I think it is about $45,000. And what would you build for that? If you get $45,000 and no year restriction, no anything, what would you build for that? What kind of vehicle would you choose? And I mean, and you could go, you know, you could get a Corolla and get a jet engine, you know, but what would it be? I mean, what could you make best bang for your buck for $45,000? Or do I need to come back in a week?
Yeah, I mean, if we're on the smarter side of things, I mean, my answer every time is going to be something Land Cruiser based. I mean, $45,000, you can buy and build a 200 series Land Cruiser that is going to hold its value. It's going to be fun. It's going to be reliable. It's going to be comfortable in Colorado.
Yeah.
And it is a smart, mature decision.
Yeah.
I don't always make smart, mature decisions.
Right.
Now, I have arguably that car in my staples, so that's why I can say I would do that, because I have done it. And I think it's a great way. You can put, it's something you put 50,000 miles on and get every dollar back out of it, because that's what that market does.
Yeah.
It's not as fun, but it is a smart thing to do to try to hopefully make yourself more comfortable in life, and get your money back out of your car. And it's an investment that you can enjoy, which is, I love to have investments that I enjoy that are truly investments, or at least not costs.
Right. Sugar's going to put his $45,000 into his El Camino.
Yeah.
That's probably not difficult to do.
71 El Camino.
Yeah, the 71 El Camino. Well, most of it's in hair products, but grow the mullet out shiny and nice.
In my goal to drive, to own everything, the downside is that it has made me a little bit more numb to the stuff that's coming out, and I'm less excited about it.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying the new stuff, but yeah.
Right.
But that's to be said, right? That's to be expected.
There's very few. Maybe that GR Corolla is something cool that would be under there of a brand new car. I don't know what else is desirable at that level right now.
There's not. I mean,
Nothing.
Like I said, my opinion is that's kind of the entry level, which is sad because $45,000 is not a little bit of money.
No,
I mean, it's becoming less every day, but it's not a little bit of money.
And it doesn't
mean that you can't even find anything fun unless you start.
Still attainable, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get nothing cool for 45,000.
No.
Nothing that excites you for 45,000.
Right.
Nothing that's aesthetically pleasing.
Exactly.
I can rent a
45,000.
Lamborghini for a good month. I think. So.
That's assuming that that's going to be an enjoyable experience. The more I learn about cars and the older I get, I don't even know that that's an enjoyable experience anymore, right?
I haven't heard those are fun to
Well,
drive.
that would get me to all my friends' house and all the girls who turned me down's house, and then I can return it back into Enterprise.
My experience with women has been a guy with an old pickup truck that's cool. Yeah. That is more attractive, at least to the type of women that I like to surround myself with. That is more attractive than showing up. I have tried to glamour women with cool, fancy, high-end cars. Yeah. And the outcome, at least for what I'm going for, doesn't work.
Ladies, I drive a 1971 F-250. Let's see if this works.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a piece of this. At least I hope. Maybe it's my age group. I don't know. I still hope that women are attracted to masculine men that know how to change a tire and fix things.
I hope so.
Maybe that's just a difference of my age group.
No,
and when you're 20 years old, that might be something a little different because I don't own my house and I'm not worried about my toilet breaking and someone knowing how to fix it. But I might be showing my age real badly here. But I still think that is an important thing, whether they will admit it openly or not.
Right.
That it is attractive that you are someone that is of means that can fix things and understand things and be there if there is a security concern.
Yeah.
If you can fix a car, well, then you should be able to look out for me when the bear comes after me, right?
Yes.
So I think that's still there, even though a lot of media is trying to convince otherwise.
Otherwise, yeah. No.
Yeah. I'm going to pick on people here. I just went to go buy some new Levi's. I've always owned Levi's. I went to the website. I couldn't even find the type of pants that I wear.
Right.
For a masculine man to buy a pair of Levi's. Like, what happened here all of a sudden? They sell in the overland. It's very common that they have patches. Yeah. You put the patches in your sunroof, your head, your visors and all that. Everywhere you've been, or the companies. Yeah. When I was on Levi's page the other day, they have patches to put on your jeans that say where you've been. And what type of person you are and your all this stuff. And I'm like, I lost it here. I mean, what happened? I just wanted a pair of jeans that I could work in, and if I accidentally have the wrong jeans on and I go to the pick and pull and I get grease all over them, they have a little bit of stretch. I'm getting old here. A little bit of stretch, so I don't blow the pockets out of them.
Right. Yeah. Well,
we're not there anymore.
I used to wear the 550s and the 560s, and when they stopped making the 560s, I stopped wearing Levi's. I switched to cargo pants because they don't make my jeans anymore.
Right.
How the heck do you stop making a good pair of jeans? Come on. I can't wear the Wranglers or the Rustlers. I can't. I have to have Levi's.
You don't want any bedazzled pockets?
No. No, thanks. I can't do that. I can't have any decoration on my pants.
Man. Well, maybe
so if you're picking up the chicks, maybe not get the Lamborghini. I don't know. It's been my experience. But what do I know?
I don't know. I've never.
I think you need to get the 4x4 going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Get the 4x4 with the BFGs.
I will.
White walls in.
Okay.
White walls in.
You're a white walls in guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love showing the lettering on the outside.
All right.
As long as you keep them clean. Yeah. None of that blue coating that's still on them. You don't clean that off. I mean, you're lazy. You show up with the new BFGs and you still got the blue coating on the white walls.
That's so bad.
You can't have that.
I don't know. It all depends, I guess, on which one you're doing. But man, Ben, this has been awesome. Yeah. This is incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, it's been great chatting.
And sharing this, the whole thing with us and your opinions, too.
I'm full of them. Everyone around me always reminds me. Lots of opinions. No limit there.
No, it's huge. It's a big honor to have you on the show.
Are we going to put a link for Slee Off-Road?
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people find you?
Our primary e-commerce website is sleeoffroad.com. We try to get it really complicated.
Yeah.
SLEE. SLEE. Yep. Okay. Remember, Dutch word for sled. Yep. That's the easiest way for me to remember. I don't know about anybody else.
Right.
But if you have a Twitter, Alexis, body on frame, four-wheel drive vehicle, happy to discuss it with you. Mm-hmm. Just because it has an L on the front doesn't mean it's soft. So
that's great. Yeah. It's impressive stuff. So cool. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.